and we will go over. We have created a dummy title report, and we will be getting into that. We'll be going over what we consider to be red flags on a title report as well. But that's what Craig's talking about. These certain things that can come up on title that is not caused by the new buyer, can potentially not even be from the seller either. But that is our responsibility to make sure that we are granting clear title when moving forward, so that when you move into that property, you aren't obligated to pay the debts and the liens from anything prior to you living in that property. But what does title insurance cost?
So the cost of title insurance is a one-time payment, and it's paid at closing. And it's entirely based on the sales price for an owner's policy, and it's based on the loan amount for a lender's policy. So in any given transaction, we're going to be issuing two policies typically. The owner's policy is the one that's going to be protecting your client, the buyer, and then the lender's policy is protecting the lender. They have many aspects to each, and there's many different kinds of policies for each too. Specifically, there's three. So the most common type of owner's policy for a buyer is the homeowner's policy. And we try to issue that on any residential transaction we can. There's some exceptions to where it can't be issued, such as being over a certain acreage limit, or even in some cases, if it's a very high liability transaction, we would go to one of the alternatives.
And one thing I did mention this is a one-time cost. It's per transaction. Sometimes if it's a cash transaction and there's no lender involved, that means that you don't necessarily need a lender's policy, because there's nobody, the lender is not requiring that policy to be protected in case of damage or loss. We do have three separate types of title insurance, or excuse me, policies. The homeowners that Craig was talking about is automatically defaulted on the purchase and sale. So when you have and you know that it's just a regular residential, there's not any additional coverages or protection that you know of, and you send in a contract, it's automatically going to default to that homeowner's policy unless stated otherwise in the contract. And Cameron, I do know he goes over this with you, but in the purchase and sale contract, unless it's stated otherwise in writing, we will automatically go with the homeowners. If we know that there is, like Craig was mentioning, a certain amount of acreage on the property, but on the purchase and sale, it does say the homeowners, and we know that we can't issue that, we will reach out to you and say that we need additional coverage. You'll have to go with another policy. But we do have comparison charts. We're happy to send those to you as well. And we're always here for any questions at rainiertitle.com. We do have all of our pricing and rate sheets. One thing to know about title insurance is we are regulated by the Washington State Commissioner. So all of our title insurance rates are published with the state, meaning that we don't get to choose how much we charge for title insurance. And that's with any company, any title company. Those are published rates, meaning that we can only vary a very small amount with any of the other title insurance companies. If I have a problem, do I lose my property in order to make a claim? Do you want to answer?
Mm-hmm. So you don't, you can make a claim on your policy for really any reason. So we really encourage that if there is, even if it's something in the
need a policy. I'm sorry, because there is some noise. So the lender's policy, which we'll talk about, if there is a lender involved in the transaction, it's not a cash buyer. That policy only covers the amount of the loan. And the reason they do that is because, again, if there's an adverse claim, or if the loan goes into default, this is their way to recoup their cost of what they have lended. Do you want to talk more about the lenders?
Yeah, so ultimately, I mean, the lender's policy doesn't provide any protection for the actual homeowner. It's purely there to protect the lender. And their owner's policy is going to be your client's protection. So the basic gist of this is that, as Nicole mentioned, we're ensuring the lender's lien position, which is ensuring that your client's mortgage is at the top priority. So it's in the event of a foreclosure, that's the number one priority. All of the remainder money would go back to the lender during the foreclosure process. So there are some people out there that choose not to get title insurance for an owner. And that's a very bad idea, in my opinion. I mean, when you look at all of the things that are happening in today's world, and especially just as Seattle, for an example, they are changing zoning and all of these things where homeowners are doing new concepts with their properties, Airbnbs, all sorts of different things. Those are opening you up to a lot of risk just by owning the property. I mean, going back to basic things like fence encroachments, your client wants that protection, and that you should always advocate for them to get a title insurance policy. And the lender is going to absolutely require it in every case.
Yes, and that's another thing I was going to ask. I get that question all the time. Is it required? So title insurance for the owner's policy is not required. Again, like Craig was just saying, we absolutely recommend it. We have seen horror stories where people have decided not to get title insurance. And one in particular that I can come up with was an ex-husband had just filed liens on his ex-wife's home just for the funds of it. So there is no regulation on if you can file a lien. I could file a lien tomorrow on somebody's house for absolutely no cause. And so there are things like that, not that particular example, but things like that where people can put liens on your property that you may have no idea that are on there and for no reason, especially if you have a common name like Smith, Jones, those sort of names, and it's being put on the wrong property or for the wrong owner. Those things come up all the time, and it's our job to make sure that those things are accurate, correct, and to the right party, and not just thrown on the property for absolutely no reason. If those liens do come on there, if somebody has put on it and they absolutely belong to the owner, and you're unaware of it, it could be really difficult to try to get those removed. There's certain procedures on how to get those removed, but it just is a really big risk not to have. As far as the lender's policy, if that's required, most of the time, if a lender is involved, I have never seen a lender that doesn't require it. And so it's up to the lender. We don't require that the lender's policy is there. It's the lender that's requiring that they have that protection on the loan. Do we have any questions regarding, I know we're throwing a lot at you in a half an hour about title insurance, and please know that Craig and his team, me and my team, we're always here to answer any questions. So if there's questions that come up after today, please email us, call us. I know Cameron puts in, that's my personal cell phone. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, because again, I know we're going through this pretty quickly. But do we have any questions as of now regarding what we just went over? Okay, we're going to keep moving on. So we have provided this 3-minute title review checklist, and we're going to go over this. But the reason I'm putting this in the slide today is because here at Rainier Title, and I have worked at other companies and know that not all title insurance companies do this, but we will always send out a title review. So anytime you're opening title with us, we have an examiner who does their research, and then they will send you an email to let you know if there is any what we consider red flags, and we'll go over red flags in just a little bit on the title report. That is our indication. Again, if there's a lien on there that you know doesn't belong to the owner, for whatever reason, we're giving you that first look to make sure before you go into contracts sometimes, but it definitely closing, that these things are identified and taken care of so it does not slow down the transaction. Because if there are certain certain things on title, it absolutely can slow down the transaction and you may not be closing on time. So this review is for you to take a glance at. Rainier, like I mentioned, you will always get this from us as well. But if you have another title company that you're working with and they're not doing the same thing, this is a way for you to identify those red flags very quickly and at least read through the title report. But please do not feel overwhelmed because title reports can get super overwhelming, and just feel free to call us anytime.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, so as Nicole mentioned, we do a title review on every transaction, every listing that we do. But additionally, we're not only pointing these issues out to you, we're here to help you resolve them too. So either if you want to call in when you get a review, I would encourage that too. Call us. We can talk to you about anything that's on there. If you have concerns that maybe aren't there, we can talk about that too. We also do conference calls with clients all the time. We can always get on the phone with your client directly and talk to them about any concerns they may have too.
We absolutely want to make sure that you and your clients feel comfortable, especially in a real estate transaction. It's going to be one of the most important transactions in a lifetime. So we want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable and, of course, gets the answers that they need. And Craig is absolutely wonderful. Like he's with me most of the day, constantly answering questions. So please don't feel like it's a hindrance at all to ask us these questions. If something comes up that you just maybe don't understand, don't know, because it absolutely could be something that really does not belong on the report. And we're just going to go through here real quick, but red flags. So these are some of what we consider red flags. Not all of them mean that we can't move forward, but what we do is consider red flags because a lot of these we will need some additional information, documentation on before we can clear it off of the title. But some of those are taxes and assessments. So if there is an exemption or classification, it may change the tax amount. And it doesn't say here, but also if there is past due taxes, if taxes are owed, that can become a red flag that will potentially need to be paid through the closing of the transaction. Vesting. So we always make sure that the seller is vested in the property. If they are not entitled, then we may need an exception, or a fulfillment deed might be required, which we will talk about. The deed of trust. Of course, we want to make sure that if any deed of trust are located on the property or the title report, that those are paid. If they have been truly paid, that they're cleared off of title. Identity, judgments and liens can be eliminated if an ID affidavit is filled out and then we determine that it actually does not belong to that seller or buyer. But the seller, and we do send out what we call an ID affidavit statement, especially when it comes to, like I had mentioned before, common last names. So that is our way. We do ask for some personal information. And we send it through secure ways, but we do ask for that information so that we can make sure, again, that it actually does belong to that seller or that buyer, your client, to make sure that they're not being liened for something that truly does not belong to them.
And in a lot of situations, people don't want to give out personal information, and we totally understand that. And we only ask for this information out of your client's best interest and protection. So we have a lot of different ways that they can submit it back to us as well. It's very secure, including obviously the most secure method. They can always drop it off at our office, or we can pick it up from them too. So if you have a client that's ever uncomfortable about what they're divulging, we're always here to try and to ease that over and make sure that they know that they're giving it to a trusted place and in a trusted method too.
Absolutely. So trust agreements, we consider that a red flag. And we'll go over some of these in our title report that we have created for today's class. Any recorded survey exceptions, pending actions, meaning if there's civil lawsuits or if there's any pending divorces, things like that may be considered a red flag. Joint use matters, which can mean if they have a joint use area, driveway, things like that, that may be a red flag. Extended coverage. The legal description is very important because, do you want to explain why we go off of a legal description and not the house?
Yeah, so basically a property address is subject to change over time. When I recently moved, the address actually changed right after I moved in. for whatever reason. I don't even know. The legal description is what ultimately is going to describe the actual shape, size, make of the property itself, and we're ensuring that that's the ultimate subject of the insurances. That's what we're guaranteeing is your clients when the transaction is over. And the only way to do that is in an actual legal description, and they're created by surveyors.
And we'll show you on the report what a legal description looks like. And so that is one thing, especially when you're working on a new transaction, we get the request, please send us a legal description and not the property address. Those are the things that we identify that property with. So we don't look at house numbers, we don't look at street addresses, we look at the legal description to make sure that that is the actual address. And like Craig had mentioned, we get that all the time where, especially with new neighborhoods, they're changing the name of even the city, the name of the street. So we do see that all the time. In a bankruptcy, and we'll go over that as well, but a bankruptcy can also considered a red flag.
Definitely. So red flags in general, especially more severe red flags like bankruptcies, you could really consider almost two types of red flags. There's those red flags that are going to halt the transaction completely until, like in the case of a bankruptcy, there's a couple different kinds of bankruptcies, and when they're ongoing, you can only encumber or sell the property with a direct court order to do that. And then there's other small red flags too. I mean, going back to the basic example, which is the most common red flag, is an encroachment. You could have a fence could be 2 inches over the line, and that is a red flag, certainly, but it won't necessarily hold up your transaction. It's going to depend on your client's opinion of the matter. And really, the really important things to look out for are the major red flags and considering what your client wants to do with the property and what their intentions are too.
And we did get a question about add or remove a bedroom or garage, for example, without city permit. Does that affect title or the legal description?
Oh, that's a good question. So no, basically the structures on any given piece of land, they'll never affect the legal description. So that's all things that are, you could say they're personal property. Real property is the actual land, the earth that it's sitting on. So the only way that's going to ever change is if they do a boundary line adjustment, a lot line adjustment, a subdivision. There's a bunch of different words and names you can call it, but they'll actually send surveyors out and redefine the lot lines.
Okay, so we are going to go through, I know we're running a little bit out, I may run a little bit over with the title portion. But so this is, Craig and I have created this title report. This title report, and I will tell you, it's this report we've been using for several years, so it's very old. But this is not a report that has actually gone out. This is one we created with a bunch of red flags on it so that we can describe and show you what they look like when they actually hit the title report. But I'll just go through it because most of the title insurance companies, it looks very, very similar. You'll get this first page, which is our commitment for title insurance. So this is not a final policy, and it won't be a final policy until the transaction is closed. This is us committing to you that with these exclusions or these requirements that we will issue it once the transaction is closed. So this is just what we call our preliminary report. The first report that we get once we start investigating or working on the property. But the first page here is Rainier Title. Of course, that is us. Underneath that, it says Stewart Title Guarantee Company. And I get questions about this all the time. Stewart Title Guarantee Company is our underwriter. So those are our third party. They are the ones that actually issue the final policy and are taking the risk on that policy. Some title insurance companies have several different underwriters that they use, depending on the type of property. We typically only use Stewart Title, and I think majority of the title companies do at this point. But for whatever reason, if you see that that's somebody else, it's because that we needed to move it to another insurer.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different reasons why basically the underwriter sets forth the guidelines for how we provide the insurance to all the parties. So different underwriters have different guidelines. Some are stricter and some are less strict. So going forward on almost all of our transactions, 99.9% of all of them, you're going to see Stewart Title. And Stewart Title is a great underwriter. They have really great flexible guidelines, and they're more open to working for solutions rather than refusing coverage, which obviously our main goal here is giving protection. So we're not really willing to outright refuse clients protection that they want to buy. We'd rather find a solution to do it. Stewart is perfect for that reason. That's why we use them.
And we do have the situations and sometimes where we do have underwriters that will not insure properties. So depending on the situation, we may move it to another underwriter who has a different guidelines, like Craig was saying, and that will actually insure the same policy, but just through their system, their underwriting system.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that many underwriters will not even touch or go near. A couple examples are, especially a great Washington example in particular, is properties that are used for the cultivation of marijuana or medical dispensaries. Underwriters for a long time would not insure these at all. Stewart is one of the very few underwriters that is open to it. As far as the other 5 or 6 underwriters I know of, they will not insure those at all. And tribal property as well. Stewart is able to do that. That's something we do fairly often here at Rainier, actually, is we insure tribal property.
So the second page is just our general commitment. So this is just, we're just going to go through first page, the very last page of the report. But what I wrote on the 3-minute title review is, so Schedule A. So we're going to go straight to Schedule A. And again, this is the underwriter. It'll tell you who the underwriter is if you're ever curious, or if your clients want to know who the underwriter is. We'll always say here on the second page. But here, when we get into what's called our Schedule A, the Schedule A is, again, our commitment for title insurance. But the things that we look for, so first of all, we have the commitment date. So the commitment date, again, is the date that we have started working.
So our commitment date is a representation of, we're viewing records all the way up to that day. And when we issue our policy, your client is covered up to the actual closing day. So there can be a little bit of a gap that we do cover, as obviously your client doesn't want to take that unnecessary risk, so we provide the coverage. Yeah, so the commitment date is a representation of where the records are up to and how up to date our commitment is.
Where I wrote number 1, so that is which type of policy. So here we have the Alta homeowners policy, which is the standard that we were talking about earlier that is defaulted on the purchase and sale. If there isn't any extended coverage or less coverage, for whatever the reason it may be, we will put what type of policy. So it's very important that if you know that you are opting out to have more or less coverage, that on our report, it reflects that. And so here is the homeowners policy, which is the standard, the default from the purchase and sale. Next to it is the amount, which is the amount of.
So it's actually a liability amount, and that's going to be the sales price in almost any normal transaction. And that's the figure that we're calculating the insurance cost from. So the right below that amount there is the premium. And in this case, it calculated $1,319. And $131.90 for sales tax. That would have been the cost to issue a $500,000 insurance policy.
And we'll go over that later in our escrow portion, but this is where we find the cost of the report. So this will be on what we call the estimated settlement statement, or the HUD, if you recognize it by that name. But this is the amount that's going to be charged for this report, for this policy. Number 2, the proposed insured, which is going to be your buyer. And of course, this is not a real name. We put in trying to buy. But this, again, we want to make sure that if we are in contract, that we do have the correct buyer's name, because that's where we're going to make sure that there is nothing under that buyer's name that's going to hinder or slow down the transaction as well. If we go into the proposed insured, do you want to explain why we?
Yeah, so the proposed insured is important not only to identify who we're insuring and who your client is, but it's also going to identify how they're acquiring title. So there's a lot of different ways that you can hold title in Washington. You can, hold it as husband and wife. You can have hold title as your separate estate. You can also acquire title with companies or trusts or other entities. So you want to know how your client is going to want to hold title, and that's what should be reflected in the proposed insured.
We have the second part of that, and sorry, I'm looking to make sure that there's no questions, and feel free, please, if you have any questions, to raise your hand or put your question in the chat. We will absolutely stop and get to that. But number 3 on this report, and Craig had just touched on it. So title to the estate or interest of the land, the commitment date vested in. So John Doe seller, which is the seller of this property, trustee of the John Doe seller. And so what we know is that this is in a trust. We see this all the time if it's in a trust, but we're letting you know that it is in a trust. We also see sometimes that, like Craig had mentioned, that we have an LLC, which is a limited liability company. If that happens, and the reason why we put this on as a red flag is that we are going to require additional information. Our underwriters are going to definitely make sure that we have the correct insured and we have the information that we need to be able to issue the policy. Do you want to?
Yeah, so obviously who you're getting the property from, it does matter. And of course, no matter what, we're ensuring that there is an appropriate transfer. But in the event of the property being owned by an LLC, we do need additional documentation from them to prove who can sign from that company, because we need to know that to guarantee you that they have the right to give your client the property. And there's a couple other different things with trust. You would need trust documentation. So when there's a really urgent closing that needs to take place, you want to catch those things early on so you can at least expect or push the listing agent in the right direction to get us that documentation very fast.
Number 4, so the land is described as follows, and this is our Exhibit A. So we actually issue this anytime you open up an order with us. We're going to send you this, not just the commitment. Eventually we'll give you the commitment, but in the very first email that we send you or opening title, we're going to send you the Exhibit A, which is the legal description that we were talking about earlier. And they look a little bit funny. So it's not just like what you're used to as far as the home, the street address and the home number. This is our actual legal description. And we do verify that to make sure. But of course, if you know the legal description in your listing or you have that information, you want to compare it to make sure that we're actually insuring the correct property as well. Do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, so there's also a lot of legal descriptions come in various ways. This one in particular on the example we're looking at, this one is lot, it's called lot and block. This is a platted property. So basically it's like taking a cookie tray and you have a bunch of squares. That's essentially what lot and block properties are. There's also meets and bounds legal descriptions where you'll actually see them defining curves and lengths and all sorts of different things. So ultimately, it doesn't really matter too much, but it's good to know. In some cases, it can actually affect the insurance coverage. Meets and bounds legal descriptions, we can't always issue a homeowner's policies on those properties because they're more prone to boundary disputes and other problems.
So again, after this, so Schedule B, Part 1, this is all general information that we put in the report. But what I did write is go to Part 2, and that's where we'll be specific to the property itself. And this is where we start what's called our special exceptions. So if this is where we look for any red flags or anything that may slow down the transaction. But in the special exceptions section, so the first one is number 1, and I didn't write this on here, I apologize, but I wanted to point out, and this is incorrect, but if you're looking for the real estate excise tax rate and for the property, it's always going to be listed here in this section. So 1.78 is not correct. I mentioned earlier, this is a really old report and it has changed since this report has been created. But this is where we do get that question, what is the tax rate in that area? This is the tax rate for this property. Number two, so general taxes. First half delinquent May 1st. So taxes are paid 2 times a year, May 1st, and then the second half is November 1st. If they're not paid through the lender or through, if you had opted out to pay yourself, then it's going to be considered a red flag because it will need to be paid. Taxes will need to be paid before the transaction can close. So this year, which it'll tell us here, it lists out the tax bill year is 2018. The amount billed, which is $5,123. The amount paid, $0. The amount unpaid is, again, the $5,123. And so what this is showing us and why it's considered a red flag is that it has not been paid within the year. So at that point, we would recognize that either it's incorrect, and we will do our due diligence to make sure that that is correct. But if it is correct, then it will need to be paid before the transaction will close. The county will make sure that they have their taxes before they'll allow us to move forward. Did you want to add anything on that?
Yeah, so as far as exceptions in general, and not just informative exceptions, these are a mixture of disclosures, general information for you, and also in general, exceptions are exceptions from coverage. So anything that's recorded is generally excluded from title insurance coverage, and that's just a standard practice everywhere. But they also can just give you general information. So what we were talking about, requesting a certain type of policy on your contract on the Form 22D. If we're not able to issue what you've requested, it'll be in here as a note, as an exception, and usually close to the top, it'll tell you why we can't issue it or what the problem is in general. And if you're looking at number 3, so this is kind of a good example of an informative exception, is it's saying that we have what we need in order to issue a particular endorsement. And endorsements are kind of like addendums to a purchase and sale contract. They're things that give additional coverage to the lender or the client. And the Alta 9.3 endorsement is something that we put in every transaction. It covers things like encroachments for the lender, among many other things. It's a huge bundle of coverage. But if you don't ever see that there, then I would recommend calling us. There could be a problem of some kind, but that'll also be clearly written on the report too.
Number 4, so pending proceedings in the United States Bankruptcy Court. So it is showing that currently that this, John Doe, the seller, is currently in a bankruptcy. The reason this is considered a red flag is if there is any proceedings in the bankruptcy court, meaning Chapter 7, 11, or 13, unless it's discharged or we have a court order saying that they are allowed to sell the property that has been included in the bankruptcy, we typically cannot move forward. So if there is a bankruptcy, the court will have to allow us in order to move forward with a court order or a discharge. If you know that this has been discharged and it just hasn't been removed from the public records, we will ask for that documentation, and then we will also make sure that we get that removed from the report with the bankruptcy court.
Yeah, and so the other huge aspect of what we were talking about earlier and looking for red flags early is you want to identify these things before you go under contract, either as on the buying side or the selling side, it doesn't matter. You want to know about these before you're locked into an agreement with another party. For example, if you're selling this property and this bankruptcy is here, if you find yourself in a contract where you could be giving certain obligations to the buyer, but you have no idea what the timeline will be to get a court order, you could see your transaction delayed and your client could take a lot of liability on for any of that. So identifying these early and being proactive as possible on either side of the transaction is super important.
So in number 5, we're going to go to here. So number 5 is telling us that there is a deed of trust that is recorded on this property. Most of the time there is, unless they own the property free and clear, they're going to show any mortgage liens on the property. This first one here shows us that the grantor is the same seller, which is John Doe seller. The trustee who their mortgage is through, same thing as the beneficiary. Sometimes those do differ if they're a brokerage and it goes through ABC Mortgage, but they're actually brokerage through a different company. Those names will differ. So it's just letting you know who the trustee is and who the beneficiary is. It does tell us who or how much the original amount is that was recorded. That doesn't mean how much they bought the property for. It just means the amount of the deed of trust. And it tells you when it was recorded and the date, of course, the recording number. Here on these hyperlinks on our reports, most of the time, if you click on those hyperlinks, and we can't do it here because this is just an example, it will show you any documentation that we have that we put in the report. So if we have a copy of anything to do with this deed of trust and any of these exceptions on here, we most of the time will have a copy of that record. So it's letting you know that there is a mortgage on the property. Number 6, it's showing us there's a second, which is a deed of trust securing a line of credit. Same grantor, which is the seller at the date that it was taken out, the trustee, meaning Rainier Title, beneficiary, which is a home equity line of credit company. Again, it'll show you the original amount, the date it was taken out, the date it was recorded. But something that I want to identify with these line of credits, if it's a standard fixed second mortgage, it will look just like the original deed of trust. If it's a line of credit, what we publish is the amount the line was taken out for. With line of credits, it doesn't necessarily mean that they owe all of that $50,000. They may have not touched that secured line of credit at all. So it's important to ask those questions because it makes a big difference in their net proceeds if they have to pay off $50,000 towards this line of credit, or if they're paying off zero. So the reason we put this on here is, again, to make sure that you know that there may be an additional, $50,000 that will be owed on this property when it is time to sell. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, so I would also like to add that when you're looking at these exceptions are, like Nicole mentioned, they're a summary of the actual document. Now, someone untrained probably wouldn't notice, but if you look at the difference in the years between these two deeds of trust, one's from 1998, one's from 2009. So there is also the possibility that when you see these things on a title report, they could have been paid off in the past but never released. And that is also a red flag that our title report failed to identify, is that usually you can look at older documents and find out if they've been paid off. Those are encumbrances that should be removed, and we would work with your client and yourselves to get those cleared up. So there's a lot of different things like that, where just because you see it on the title report doesn't actually mean that your client owes $50,000, like Nicole said, and it doesn't mean that they even owe $232,000 either. These things could have been paid off or handled before.
So number 7, so the lien. So there is a lien on the property. And if we look who the claimant is, the person that had issued this lien or recorded this lien, First Homeowners Association. So by looking at this report, we can tell that the Homeowners Association did put a lien on the property. That lien could be many things. It could be potential dues that were never paid. It could be special assessments that they have not paid on. And those things typically will absolutely be required to pay off as well. Did you want to add anything about that?
Yeah, so we will, anytime there's a lien like this, whether it be your typical mortgage lien, an HOA lien like this one here, or a mechanic lien, which is even worse, we are going to require that all of those are paid off through the transaction. This is for the buyer's protection, obviously. They don't want to buy a property and find out that they now suddenly owe $25,000 to someone they've never met. So we absolutely require that these are paid off. And the biggest question I get a lot of the time from buyers and selling agents is exactly that, is this will be paid off, right? And the answer is always going to be absolutely, it has to.
And those are things just to keep in mind also when you're looking at your seller proceeds. These are things to consider when calculating that net proceeds as well. Same thing with the lien for labor and materials. When you have a contractor on the property, which here it looks like Billy Bob from LLC had put a claim on the property. We see those liens quite a bit. It doesn't, again, necessarily mean that this is owed, but because there is a lien on this title report, again, our whole purpose is to make sure that your buyers go into this property with 0 liens. But do you want to talk about, or?
Yeah, so in general, I would say mechanic lien is, like I was saying at the beginning, that there's kind of 2 different types of red flags. There's red flags that, it could be problematic and maybe your client has a personal issue with it. Then there's significant red flags that stop the transaction. The worst thing to see on a title report, especially in today's real estate market, is a mechanic lien. When you look at them, there could be many others. And that's something that we investigate very thoroughly to make sure that everyone has been paid, who's been on site, and that your clients aren't going to have any problems later on.
And we will go over the rest of this very quickly, just because we did add a lot on here. There's easements on this, just for you to be aware of. There's, it looks like there's, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we should talk about. Matters recorded against the vested party or personal similarities.
I would probably, if you want to bring the example to the end here, exception 18. So when you're dealing in certain areas like Seattle, for example, you're going to have a lot of the time surveys have been recorded in the past. And those surveys can give a really big hint of if there's any problems. So in this example, there's A and B are noted as if there's a fence that doesn't conform to the property lines and a retaining wall. So this is an example of a red flag that is not necessarily highly problematic. Obviously, you don't want this kind of encroachment. It could be a couple different things. There could be between 2012, when the survey was done, and now, those fences could have been moved. Fences don't last forever. They obviously get replaced. So you have to take these with a grain of salt. And if you ever see items disclosed on a survey, you really should check with us and your client, if you're the listing agent, or if you're the selling agent, check with the sellers and figure out, have these issues been resolved already, or is that something that's still a concern? And we do physical inspections. We work with physical inspection companies. If there's ever any concerns, we can absolutely send someone out to the site to investigate it.
And so these are the end of this special exceptions. Again, those are the only typical areas that you'll need to really look at as far as glancing for red flags. But again, it does talk about the commitment that we are committing to as far as this report goes. And I just want to show you one last thing. And we do get requests for these. This is something that you don't need an entire title report for. If you just need it, this is considered our plat map. And we do include this with our initial report, all of our reports. We do have additional resources for other plat maps too, but we will include this one. And the main reason for that, of course, it does give you all of the boundary description, and it gives you any boundary lines so that you can see that as far as the dimensions as well. But this little arrow here, because it's our first report, it's very important to identify, since you've been to this property, if you've listed it or you've looked at it, that you notice that we're talking about the correct property. So this arrow, if you know that you've been to this property and you know that it's the 4th house in, it's not a corner lot, and we have an arrow at this corner lot, that's a red flag for us, because we're not investigating or working on the correct property. So it's something just to take a glance at. If you notice, again, like I had mentioned, that is not the home, then please let us know right away, because then we will have to make sure, again, that we are insuring the correct property. And this just gives us the privacy policy notice, which we will always include. But that is the end of our title section, and we will go over escrow fairly quickly so that Cameron can feel better and move on with Lauren's presentation. But do we have any questions on title or anything that we've talked about right now? And if not, please feel free to call us. Cameron always gives, again, my personal cell phone number, and we will absolutely make sure that we can discuss anything that you need in more length and detail. No questions? Okay, so escrow process. And thank you so much, Craig. He's going to step out. But again, Craig and his entire department is absolutely wonderful. They will go above and beyond making sure that if you have any questions that they identify and make sure that they give the best.
We're always here to
You're
help.
always
Hi,
here
I
to
have a
help.
question.
As they need,
Hello.
the department's always
Can you hear
contact us.
me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you
Oh,
hear
okay.
us?
Yeah, this is Fräulein. I have a question. It has been my concern about this one. If we go by the legal description and not by the property address, especially for a newly construction, especially for a house that's being built, how can I make sure that it's really the property that I'm selling or we're buying? Just like last month, I sold a new house that's being built on a lot, and I was just concerned if it's the right property that my client is buying. We just rely on the listing broker that's really the property. So how can we make sure that it's really that property that we are buying?
Absolutely. Well, as a realtor, of course, you're not super well trained in reading legal descriptions. That's not something expected of you. And
Yeah.
really, even in my job here, I don't necessarily read these out. It's the most important thing you could do is I would call the title unit or call Nicole. And what we can do is we can kind of physically identify the property. So we can look at the legal description that is tied to a certain property address through county records. And we can compare that to maps to make sure that you actually have a depiction of exactly what you're buying and that you're aware of. So yeah, that's definitely a concern. And I'm sure it's happened in the past where someone bought something that they didn't realize was down the street from what they were actually looking at. So yes, calling our title unit, that's the best thing to do if you have any concerns about what it is you're buying. And we can look at a lot of resources and make sure that what you're physically looking at is what you're getting on paper.
We have the systems that we have in place are out of this world. So we can look at real-time photos, maps, zoom in. I mean, we have all of the resources to be able to make sure that we're correctly identifying the right property. So in any of those circumstances, like Craig said, just call us and then we can compare the legal to the house number to make sure that it is the same property as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we're going to go into the escrow. So escrow, so in a blank term, so what is escrow? So escrow is a system of document transfers in which a deed, bond, or funds are delivered to a third party to hold until all conditions in the contract are fulfilled. In other words, escrow provides one central place where all funds and documents may be deposited. And I want to reiterate that. So the escrow agent is a neutral third party. They only go off of written instructions. So they're not going to, they go off of instructions when it comes to the contract, they go off of, and that's why you'll see in a transaction, if they need written instructions to remove, add, or anything as far as their duties, they will need that in written ways. So one of the things that you may notice is in other states, a lot of the times the escrow is handled by attorneys' offices, not necessarily an escrow company. So in other states, they require attorneys to handle these sort of transactions. In Washington state, we require our closers, which are considered LPOs, to take part of the bar. So they actually have their own independent licensing, just like an attorney, to be able to handle these transactions. The escrow agent is, again, a neutral third party acting on behalf of both buyer and seller. Their primary purpose is to close the transaction according to the party's instruction. Usually this involves clearing title, which our escrow team, and that's always a benefit to using the same title and escrow team together because they easily talk to each other's departments. But they usually involves clearing title, acting as an in-between party, between all the parties, preparing the documents, the signing closing documents, dispersing funds according to the instructions, recording of the deed and any security documents that do need to be recorded, paying off the existing liens and mortgages, and the proration of real property taxes to ensure that they're accurate and complete for closing. Some of the things they do not do, an escrow closer does not offer legal advice because they are a neutral third party, and part of their licensing requirements, they are only that. They only go off instructions that are completed by all parties. They do not offer legal advice. They don't negotiate the transaction. They don't offer any sort of investment advice or prepare any addenda or addendums to the purchase and sale contract. Important terms, the most important would be the settlement statement, which I do have an example we'll go over real quick, but that is an itemized spreadsheet detailing all of the debits and credits associated with the closing per party. So you will have a seller's portion of that and a buyer's portion of that. And then the other most important thing that they do is the recording. So they file the documents for public record, and that's where we do get all of the things on your title report that we see. Those come from public records as required for completion of the escrow transaction. So customary closing costs, I do want to go through here. These are 11 milestones. I do know this is a milestone that our escrow closers are required to use at our company. So it doesn't matter which closer you have, and a lot of the times you'll use, Rainier Title, but you'll have one closer for one transaction and another closer for another transaction. We really pride ourselves on these milestones because no matter what closer you have, you're going to at least get these touch points throughout the transaction. And feel free to read through that, but it is important to know that when you come to Rainier and you are hoping for a closer and you just happen to have another closer because the other agent has a relationship with that you're getting the same service on both sides with all of our closers. Keys to a successful closing. Again, I'll rush through this, but there are sections and things that will make a successful closing. A lot of that is here. Customary closing costs. These are, of course, and Cameron will talk about this, but they're all negotiable. But this is typically how we see what the buyer normally pays for and what the seller normally pays for. In most instances, they are split between buyer and seller. So policies are split. The escrow fee, which is our settlement fee, will be split evenly between both parties unless instructed otherwise to our closer. But this is a copy of one of our, what we call our closing statement. Sometimes they're called HUD, but this is what typically our closing statement looks like. More times it's more than one page. And this one, it is just one page. But this will go over, again, like we were talking about, the debits and credits per side of the transaction. Some things that I want you just to look over, and I don't know where my copy of it was. I can't see my screen. I'm so sorry. But typically, the things to look for on this statement is, of course, the property address. We are going to send this to all parties before we schedule our signing appointment. So once we have received documents from the lender, we're ready to move forward and have all parties sign a closing. We're going to send this to you, the agents, for review, to review with your client to make sure that this looks accurate before we're sending out a notary or one of our team members to sign them. So we ask that you review it. We won't set up typically the appointment until you tell us everything looks good to go, and that's including your commissions. But these items are all things that have been documented that we do and instructed to be paid off. But property address, again, we want to make sure that we do have the correct property address. The buyer is correct, to your knowledge, the seller. The lender information. On this particular example, the lender, there isn't one. So this one is an all cash transaction. And the reason I'm going to bring that up is because typically in all cash transactions, not necessarily do they have to wait what we call the rescission period, or I don't even a waiting period in order to close. So on the settlement statement, which we have here, which is the settlement date, and the disbursement date, those are two different dates typically if a lender is involved. So the settlement date is the date that you're actually signing, that the appointment is signed. The disbursement date is the funding date. And I know that the wording on that is a little, can be a little confusing. But the disbursement date is our funding date, the date we will actually record and close on the property. But if you look on the left side of this side, it's going to have anything that we have been instructed that the seller is going to be paid. And then on the right side, we're going to have anything that is going to be instructed that the buyer has to pay. I did put a circle here in this section because this is where our lender's fee would be, which is the buyer is typically responsible for. But in this case, since we don't have a lender, it's an all cash transaction, there is no fee there. So I just wanted to point out where that fee would be if there was a lender involved. Some other things I wanted to point out is the POC items. So anything that is listed under the POC items, but do need to be accounted for in the transaction is paid outside of closing is what that stands for. So if for whatever reason an appraisal is paid or an inspection, but they don't want to roll that into their loan, it's going to be put on this POC column so that you can see that that has been paid. It has been completed through the transaction and through the contract, but is not actually going to be charged through the loan or the closing. At the very bottom of here, it's all of the totals. So it will show you the debits, the credits, and the nets in this scenario. And I'm sorry, I have 3 questions. I'm just going to ask. Oh, nope. Okay. Thank you, Cameron. I see that. Cameron just put all of our information, and that is my personal cell phone. So feel free, like I had mentioned, anytime you have a question, feel free to give me a call. But here, if you have questions, again, I know we ran over the escrow process really quick. If you have questions on the HUD or the settlement statement, please call me. I'd be happy to do a deep dive into what some of these things mean and the charges. Here are issues that may slow down your transaction. Feel free to go through that. The transaction flow chart, it's a little confusing, but it's super helpful, especially if you're working with new buyers or new sellers so that they understand the process. But I think I'm sorry I ran 5 minutes over, but Cameron, I'll let you take over. And thank you again so much for allowing me and Craig to join your call today. Again, his unit and me personally are always available to help however we can.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I really appreciate it. Yeah, guys, and something we need to mention on the purchase and sale agreement. I'll show you guys this in a little bit when I'm doing my portion of the class, but if you ever want to work with Nicole, you need to actually depict that on the front of the purchase and sale agreement where you put the title and escrow section, but I'll show you how to do that when I take over my portion of the class.
Thank you so much. Everybody enjoy your day and congratulations.
Thank you, Nicole. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too, Karen. Bye.
No problem. Bye-bye. Hey, Marisa Bell, I see your message. Yes, I can put the Dropbox file for all this information into the chat. Connie sent this out to everyone in the packets before, but I'll put that in. Let me pass everything on to Lauren before we take up more time, and I'll put all the packet information into the chat bar and you can download that. But like I mentioned earlier, the next section of the class is going to go over the lending side of things. Skyline Properties partners with an amazing company called Movement Mortgage that has a lot of neat tools, and we've been working with Lauren Ricker directly. He actually works a few days out of our Kent office, and him and I have had a long-term partnership, and he's one of the top lenders in the industry right now, and he's going to kind of go over the specific lending process, but also kind of why Movement Mortgage goes above and beyond to get you guys pre-approved and fully underwritten. So I'll pass it on to Lauren. Hey, Lauren, you there?
I'm here. Hi, Cameron. How's it going?
I've been I'm suffering from what I think may be COVID. I'm not sure yet. I've taken 2 tests, both negative up to now, but it's only been like 3 or 4 days, I guess, since I've had symptoms. But it feels like COVID, and I was going to cancel this class, but I felt bad. So I'm going to try and push through. But yeah, I'll pass it on to you.
Okay, well, I hope you get better soon.
Thank you, sir.
Hopefully it's not the smoke. It's crazy out there.
It could be a combination of things right now. I also got back from Mexico, so it could be the bad water down there. Who knows? It could be a lot of things. All right.
All right, well, everyone, thank you so much for allowing me to join you. Again, my name's Lauren Rickard. I'm a loan officer with Movement Mortgage, like Cameron said. We are the preferred lender with Movement or Skyline Properties, which is an amazing company. We're honored and so proud to be working with Skyline Properties since 2014. So it's been a great partnership. I'm going to share my screen right now. So can you all see my hi? I'm Lauren Rickard.
Yes,
screen?
we can.
Okay, so that's me. That's I'm your in-house mortgage loan specialist. So what does that mean? That just means we're here for you. I'm here for you 7 days a week. Doesn't mean you have to use me. It just means I'm here for you because my sole purpose is to help in any way I can in your success, in your getting that transaction, in your marketing, whatever I can do to help you be successful. We partner with all Skyline Properties. You are our number one real estate brokers that we work with. When anything comes in from Skyline, we basically drop everything and make sure you are taken care of. Okay, you are like the kings and queens to us. I mean, we want to make sure you are on top. So there's my phone number. That's my personal cell, so you can call or text me on that. 7 days a week. Saturday, you met a customer, want to get pre-qualified, let me know, and I'm there about that and to help. Or if you have a question, on a transaction that's going right now, even if it's not even my transaction, you have it something else, and hey, you just want to run it by me, I'm here. Okay. All right. First thing I just want to talk to you, I'm just kind of giving you a $30,000 or 30,000 foot view of the mortgage side of things, and then of course, any questions along the way that I spur, I'm going to try to keep an eye on the questions that pop up, and I'm going to try to pull it up here on the chat. Yeah. So difference between pre-qualification and pre-approval. Those are two words that you're going to hear out there. And I think as a real estate broker, it's important that you know the difference because they're thrown out there a lot. And sometimes you want to make sure if what you hear is actual what you're understanding. Okay. So for what pre-qualification means is it means that a loan officer has taken an application that hopefully they pulled credit, and based on that information, have let the customer know or let you know basically what they should be approved for, how much they can buy based on that information only. Okay, so nothing's really been verified by that point. They basically just talk to the customer and we're trying to get an idea of their income, trying to get an idea of their payments that they have, and trying to figure out how much they can qualify for based on that information. That's pre-qualification. That's an important first step to have. But the more important step to have is what you're going to want to have is when you're out, taking people to open houses and taking your valuable time to show them homes on a weekend, you want to make sure they're pre-approved. So what pre-approved means is we have verified their income, we have verified their assets. So that means those things have been reviewed and approved. And what Movement Mortgage does, one of the main reasons why I've been here since 2013 is we have underwritten pre-approvals. So important, especially when you're dealing with, especially nowadays, because income it's not the easiest thing to figure out. You'd think it would be, but it really isn't, especially if you're dealing with self-employed borrowers, 1099 borrowers. Income is just what the borrower thinks the income is not what the qualified income is. So it's very important, even what the loan officer might think the income is, may not be what the underwriter thinks the income is, because they have to go by underwriting guidelines that change from month to month, it seems like sometimes. So it's important to have especially that income reviewed. So that way, because once we have that income reviewed and signed off by the actual underwriter, now we can know, okay, here's where we can go up to as far as a maximum payment when we're trying to figure out their purchase price. So for example, if I know let's say they're pre-approved for a payment up to $3,000 a month, and you're showing them a house and say your client loves this house and want to make an offer on this house, you might want to, especially in today's market where interest rates have gone up quite a bit lately, the pre-approval that they had a month ago may not be a pre-approval that's available today because interest rates have gone up over 0.5%. So it's important, I would say, to talk to that loan officer that gave the pre-approval. And that's what I'm having all my real estate brokers do is, hey, when you have a buyer that wants to make an offer on that home, run it by the loan officer right now, just to make sure that everything's good to go on that debt to income ratio with today's current interest rates. So what I will do is the real estate broker will text me the MLS number or the property address, but usually just the MLS number. I pull it up. I look at the county website for the property taxes. Now, a lot of times the MLS will say what the property taxes are, but unfortunately, a lot of times it's not correct. A lot of times the listing agent puts in last year's tax information, not this year's tax information, especially when it's a new year. I mean, so I'm pulling up what the current property taxes are. I look up the county tax assessor and dial in that payment as much as possible, because the last thing you want is your offer to get accepted and then later on find out, oh, the debt ratio is too high. We got to somehow, borrowers got to bring in more money to close, reduce that payment somehow to make it be approved. So we want to know, eyes wide open, is this everything look good on this? Okay. So the pre-approval, again, it means everything's been verified for the buyer. Income's been verified, assets have been verified, credit, of course, has been verified. And with moving mortgage, not just the loan officer has looked at it, but the actual human underwriter has looked at it, okay? And I say human underwriter because with the lender, we use a system called desktop underwriter. And you might hear that out there. It's called, they'll just say DU. Yeah, we run it through DU, everything looks good. DU stands for desktop underwriter. And it's the first step that's needed on all FHA, conventional VA loans, USDA loans, different types of loans. We need to get that desktop underwriter approval first, then we can submit it to the underwriter. Now, it is possible for underwriter to like overrule the desktop underwriter or results, but it's not easy to do. It's just best to have that desktop underwriter approval too. So that's included with the pre-approval. So essentially everything with the buyer is done with movement mortgage on the pre-approval. Only thing that needs to be done is the appraisal on the home, the title insurance on the home, make sure it has clear title, and the homeowner insurance on the home. Okay, everything having to do with the home, but everything doing with the buyer is completed. And guess what? Once we have that underwritten pre-approval, now we can close quickly. With moving mortgage, we have a 6-hour underwrite, 7-day processing, 1-day docs out goal on every file. We don't look at the closing date. We look at our 671 process, and as soon as the underwriter approves it, the underwriter will say, okay, we want it basically ready for closing. They just count out 7 calendar days and say, we want it ready for closing by this date. Okay. And appraisals are coming in quick, fast now. So we're actually able to meet those fast closing dates. We're closing and, about, it's not unheard of at all, closing in like 10 business days right now on a rush and stuff, but typically 15 is no problem at all. Okay. Any questions on pre-approval, pre-qualification? You want to make sure if you're taking your client out for open houses, you want to make sure they're pre-approved. On that first step, hey, is this, how much can they buy? That's the pre-qualification, okay? But then you're dialing in more to get that pre-approval, okay? All righty. Bear with me here. I want to make sure I don't have any questions. Okay, good. Okay, what is needed for pre-approval? Most recent 30-day paychecks. So usually people are paid twice a month or every 2 weeks. So that'd be your last 2. If a person is paid every week, then we want to get the last 4. Okay. And the reason for that is hours can vary. We want to make sure, are they a straight salary type of person, meaning the paycheck's always the same, or are they variable income? See, that's again where an underwriter's review is so important. Variable income is not the same as salary income. So variable income means their hours can change from week to week, or maybe they were sick one day. So instead of working 40 hours this week, they work 32 hours this week. So So that's why we need the most recent 30 days, okay? Get their last 2 years W-2, so 2021 and 2020. Last 2 years tax returns. So that's only needed if they're self-employed, have 1099 income, have rental income, have other income other than their job, their W-2 job. If they have other income, they would get, and we want to count that income towards qualification, we'd get their tax returns. Or if they're using a down payment assistance program, which we'll talk about in a bit, okay, then we want to get your tax returns too. For the pre-approval, I just get your most recent 1 month bank statements, all pages. So what we're looking for there is, do they have enough money to buy the home? If they don't have enough money to buy the home right now, where's it coming from? What's the plan? Are they getting a gift from somebody? Are they saving still? Are they getting some, money somewhere from maybe somebody owes them money? They're going to pay them back. I just want to get the story. Where's the funds to close that is needed to buy the home coming from? Okay. And we got to document it on that bank statement. Now really we need 2 months bank statements, but on the initial pre-approval, I only get 1 month because I know by the time they find the home, probably another month has come out by that point. And then I'm updating that file anyway. So that way I'm getting that 2nd month bank statement once they find that home. Okay. Then we get a proof of identity. So just get their driver's license. If they've had a bankruptcy, then we want to get their bankruptcy discharge. If they're a permanent resident, non-permanent resident, I should say, get a copy of their green card front and back. But typically this is all we need for the initial pre-approval. Okay. We have a real cool thing for taking the application. So that's the first step on that pre-qualification, is just completing the application. They can do it on their phone 24/7 or their computer. I have a website, we'll talk about that, and I'll be notified once that application is completed, okay? And then I get on it and we'll talk more about that. Now, the other way that I can take an application is just on the phone. Some people they're not comfortable with the computer, or they just don't want to do that. They'd rather talk with me. Totally fine. I just set up a time. Hey, let's talk. How about 6 o'clock on tomorrow evening? Is that work? We're just setting up a time that works for them. And then it's like a phone meeting, and it only takes about 10 minutes, and I get that application completed for them. Okay. That's basically step 1 on finding out how much home they can buy, is the application. Now I want to talk to you about some, what I call carrots. Basically, you're giving information that would be of interest to prospective buyers. Okay. And one of those carrots that is really good, I do a lot of these type of loans, is the down payment assistance programs. So we partner with Washington State Housing Finance Commission. I'm what is called a commissioned loan officer. That just means I can close these types of loans. I can teach homebuyer classes for these types of programs, first-time homebuyer programs, which is required for this Washington State down payment assistance. They have a number of different down payment assistance programs. Okay, so what I do is I look at the buyer and their situation, and I find out what would be the best program for them. Okay, the most often it's this Home Advantage program is the one that's used the most due to income. It allows for the highest income. Another great program that I love that people can use it is called this House Key with Opportunity DPA. DPA stands for Down Payment Assistance. Gives a really low interest rate and gives larger down payment assistance. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at that customer. Hey, what is the best program that we can use for this customer so they can, get the most bang for the buck, have the most down payment assistance. The hardest thing for most people to come up with, first-time home buyers, is the down payment. So we're just taking that away. Basically, the down payment is paid for them by the down payment assistance program through the state. Okay. And I see a question. I'm going to go to my other screen, pop that up. Okay. Okay. No, Cameron asked that. Okay, cool.
I believe Fraulein was raising her hand as a question.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
my I was gonna ask earlier about oh gosh, I forget now. When you're okay, about the down payment. Borrowing money, okay, gifting money to a relative.
Yeah.
You normally ask for a gift letter,
Yes.
let's say from the parents. Okay, when let's say the parents is gifting $100,000, is that reportable to IRS? Are you gonna send that letter to IRS?
No, we don't report anything to the IRS. Okay, but technically I'm supposed to tell the, I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant, so they should ask them. But no, we do not report anything to the IRS. It is, I can tell you that you can gift up to $250,000 and it's not taxable in a lifetime. But again, you should talk to your accountant on that. Technically that's what I'm supposed to say to the customer. So, but yeah, we don't report anything. If we receive a gift, the customer receives a gift and it's part of the loan transaction, we don't report to the IRS. Does that answer your question?
All you need is a letter from the donor, right?
Well, yeah, not just the letter, we got to show proof that the money came out of the gift donor's account too.
Okay.
So there's two main types of loans, conventional financing. So that's the easiest route on gift is conventional finance. We just need a copy of the canceled check or the wire receipt showing the gifter's name on whoever gave the gift name on that wire receipt. FHA is a little bit more in depth. We have to show the actual bank statement and the money coming out of the person's bank account. Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. All right. Great question there. Thank you. So a little bit more about the down payment assistance program. Here's kind of some information as far as the bullet points. Minimum credit score is 620. Okay. If they're not at 620, I'm going to help them get at 620. I'm going to give them a game plan. Here's what you need to do to get you there. Okay. I have a real cool system with our credit reporting company that basically tells me exactly what they can do to increase their score. Now, 640 is better than a 620 as far as the down payment assistance. It allows for a higher debt to income ratio, which gives them more buying power. Okay. So I want to get them to 640 so they can maximize their buying power. The maximum buyer annual income is 160, and I keep forgetting to change that. It's actually 180 now. They recently updated that to 180,000. So they can make up $180,000 a year and qualify for this program. If they make more than that, then they don't qualify for this program. However, if there's two borrowers and combined they make 200,000, but they could qualify on just one of the person's income and they're under that 180,000, then we can just use that one borrower. Okay, as long as they qualify. The other borrower could be on title. Let's say it's a husband wife. The wife makes the majority of the income. The husband, they qualify with just with the wife's income only. The husband can be on title too, meaning they're both owner of the home, but we're just not having the husband as a borrower. Okay, he's not on the loan, but he is on title. Okay, that's totally fine. Let's say they don't qualify due to income. They can bring in a co-signer. Okay, a co-signer, we can add that income into the equation to help them qualify for more. But again, 180,000 with the co-signer income too. The program also assists with closing costs. So it not only pays for down payment, some of the money, there's money left over that we can use for closing costs. Okay. The seller is allowed to pay for closing costs. That's becoming more common now. 6 months ago, that was unheard of. Of course, seller would not do that, but now they're willing to do that. So I'm seeing offers coming in with seller credits. So it used to be, pre-COVID, it's very common that a customer would get their earnest money back at closing because everything was paid for either by the program or by the seller. We didn't need the earnest money. It got refunded back to the buyer at closing. Okay. If that's been uncommon here, during, with what a real estate did, but with what's happening now, I'm starting to see that again. So it's becoming more of a normal market is all that's happened. Homeownership course is required. So like I talked about, there's a home buyer class that's required that can be in person or online. Okay, there's an online class they can do 24/7. You don't need to be a first-time home buyer to qualify. Condos are okay. Okay. There's reduced mortgage insurance on conventional loans. So conventional loans, it says, hey, if you use this program, we're going to give you a benefit. It's a reduced mortgage insurance cost than if you don't use the program. Okay. There's been many times where people qualify for this, don't, they can go this program or not. And I'll say, hey, let's go this program because you get a lower payment because the mortgage insurance is lower here. So let's go this route versus a regular 30-year fixed, not using the down payment assistance. Let's say they had their own down payment. They can still use this program to get the lower mortgage insurance, have the lower payment, even though they have their own down payment. Okay. Conventional or FHA financing is allowed for this. So any questions on this? It's a great program to talk to first-time
Yeah.
homeowners. Yes.
Just a question. How does the way to assist for the closing cost?
How is the way that we assist for the closing costs? So, well, let's go over that. It's a great question. So, a couple ways. Perfect timing. So let me give you an example. Let's say we got somebody that was pre-approved, conventional financing, first-time home buyer. They don't have to be a first-time home, just for example, for $400,000 purchase price is what they're got pre-approved. So they found that home, $400,000 purchase price. For a standard conventional loan, you need to put 3% down. Okay, so we're going to loan them 97% of that $400,000 purchase price. So 3% down is 12,000. We're moving mortgage comes in with 388,000. Okay. Now total funds needed. Well, we have our closing costs and prepaids. Prepaids, by the way, is that savings account for your property taxes and insurance, so that your property taxes and homeowners insurance is paid automatically when those items are due. Like a forced savings account, it's the buyer's money. If the buyer sells the home or refinances that loan, whatever's in that special savings account is refunded back to them. Okay, but it's a forced savings account so that the taxes are automatically paid every April and every October, 6 months at a time, comes out of that account. So that's what prepaids means. So we set up a special deposit that's collected at closing for that. So that's what it prepaids is. So let's say the combined closing costs and prepaids was just under $8 grand, $7,943. This was a true example. I just took the bottom line numbers. Okay. The down payment, that's that number we talked about before, 12,000. So that's needed. Down payment assistance is 15,520. So that down payment assistance pays for all of the 12,000, right? And there's 3,520 left over, right? So what can we do with that money? Well, that can be applied toward the 7,949 closing costs. Okay. So that all that's needed is the balance, the 4,429. Let's say the buyer already paid $2,000 earnest money. We count that at closing. So now they only need $2,429. Okay, at closing. Okay. Now that 15,520. How did we come up with that number? That number is simply 4% of the loan amount. See up here, it's down payment assistance of 4% of the first mortgage loan amount. So the first mortgage loan amount is 388. Just multiply that by 0.04, 4%. That equals 15,520. Okay. So the bigger the loan amount, the bigger the down payment assistance amount. Okay. Does that answer your question? So now let's say, let's go back to this example. There's 4,429. And let's say we had a $4,400 seller credit. Okay. For example. Now the buyer just needs $29.13 because the seller paid $4,400 seller credit towards that. Okay. So let's say the buyer paid that $2,000 earnest money. Well, we didn't need it. The seller paid for everything that's needed. So now escrow will just refund that money back to the buyer if it's not needed. Okay. There was a top producing broker at Skyline Properties that did exactly that strategy. All he did is talk about this strategy, and he was a top producer at Skyline. Okay. Next program I want to talk to you about. It's a really popular program. These next two programs are becoming more popular now in the higher interest rate market that we're in. And it's for self-employed borrowers. Well, yeah. So this one, let's say the great thing about being self-employed is you can write off a lot of your expenses don't have to pay taxes as much as a W-2 borrower because you're running expenses through your business and that you're only paying taxes on your net income after expenses. And great, you have a much lower tax bill than somebody else with your income, your true income, as a self-employed borrower. However, it's a double-edged sword because when you're qualifying for a mortgage, we're looking at, you're self-employed, we're looking at your tax returns. And you wrote off all of your expenses, and now your income that was taxable is $8,000 for the year, divided by 12, you make $400 a month. You're not going to qualify for much, right? So what else can we do? Here's what we can do. Called our 12-month bank statement program. We basically use 12 months bank statements, can be personal or business, okay? You have to be self-employed for this program. We just use one account, and we can use, basically, income is calculated by the deposits, the average deposits going into that bank account. So we just simply look at the deposits going in, okay? And if it's a business bank account, we take a 50% on, unless it's, let's just say for now, it can change based on the type of business it is. But typically it's 50% expense cover or ratio. So let's say their average deposits was $20,000 a month going into those bank accounts. Take 50% of that, we take qualified income as 10,000. Now that's our 10,000 that we can use to qualify for a mortgage, which is much better than the 1,000 that we're using on tax returns. Okay, this program, tax returns are not required. We don't need them. I don't put them in the file. So now we have $10,000 qualified income. Now they qualify for a much better purchase price. Okay, we can go to a debt to income ratio of 50%. So that simply means their house payment plus their creditor payments needs to be no more than 50% of their gross monthly income. So if their gross monthly income was $10,000 in my example, then $5,000 would be the max payment for house payment and their creditor payments. And Fraulein, do you have a question?
Yeah, but go ahead and finish that. Finish it later.
Okay. So again, must be self-employed. And what is self-employed? Must have at least 25% ownership in a business. Okay. So if you own a business but only own 20% of the business, then you wouldn't qualify for this program. Okay. Need to be in business for at least 2 years. Okay. Guess what? Real estate agents this would work for you. You're a business owner. You're 1099. So this would work for this program. Needs to be 1 to 4 units, condo, or condos work too. Okay. If it's an owner occupied home, we'll loan up to 80% of the value of homes. You got to put 20% down. You need a 680 score. It's the same with investment home. 20% down minimum, need a 680 credit score. We'll loan up to $3 million. So if it's 3-4 unit, whatever, we could go up to $3 million on this. No limit on the number of properties. So that's cool. So especially if you're an investor, a lot of time investors have more. Fannie on conventional financing, 10, you can only have 10 properties if it's an investment purchase. So finance properties. So if you have more than 10 properties, they don't care. This program does not care about that. Okay. First time home buyer is allowed for this program. Okay. You do not have to be you can be a first time home buyer, which is cool. Permanent and non-permanent residents allowed as long as they have lawful residency. Okay. You need to have 6 months reserves. Okay. So 6 months reserves just means, let's say their payment was $3,000 a month. We need to show that they have 6 times that in the bank somewhere, retirement account, bank account, somewhere that if they had to get to it, they could get to it. So that'd be 18,000. Okay. We're not using it. We're just seeing that they have it. Okay. Okay. Here's another great program that I want to mention. It's called our Debt Service Coverage Ratio Program, DSCR for short. Okay. So what this program is we don't even look at the buyer income. They don't even need to have a job. We don't look at income whatsoever as far as the buyer. All we're looking at is the income from the property. So this is an investment purchase. It works great for investors. Okay. Income is calculated solely from the income of the property. there's no debt to income ratio per se. Debt to income ratio means your debt's divided by your income. Well, there's no income except for the property, okay? So we look at what is called a qualified rent ratio. It needs to be at 100% or more, okay? Now, first-time home buyers are not permitted. So you have to, this is for investment property only, cannot be your primary residence. And you have to have a primary. You have to live in a home that is your primary residence. You're not renting a home, okay? You own the home, okay? The qualified rent, so when we're qualifying, we're looking at the qualified rent of the property. We're either using the qualified rent of a current rental agreement. So if the property is currently rented, which usually is not, but if it is, we'd use that rental agreement. Usually the home is vacant. So in that case, we would do what is called the appraisal market rent analysis. So the appraiser will tell us what the current market rent is for that property in that area. And then we use 100% of that. That's the other great thing. 100% of that is qualified income for that property. Other programs, like conventional programs, if we had that rental agreement, we just count 75% of that income because there's a 25% vacancy factor that we don't count. This program uses the full 100%. So that helps them have more buying power, okay? VRBOs work for this. So if it's a income where, you know, they're just going to rent it out for Airbnb or whatever they call it, short-term rental, that works for that too. Okay, it does not have to be a property that you're going to do on a one-year lease on. So for example, let's say the full PITI. So what PITI means: principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So the full expense of the property. If there's homeowner dues, then that would count too. The full expense of the property is $3,000 a month. Okay, so we just want to make sure that if the rental income, I put 3,500 on it. I'm sorry, 3,000. It just needs to be the rent income from that property from the appraiser needs to be $3,000 or more. Okay, to cover that $3,000 payment. If the rent was $2,800, but the payment was $3,000, then that loan wouldn't qualify for this program. So what could we do? Well, can the buyer have bigger down payment? Because if he had a bigger down payment, that would lower our loan amount. What do we need to do to get that payment down to $2,800? Okay. Just need a 680 credit score, 6 months reserves again. So, and we only look at the subject property. So let's say they own 10 homes. We just look at the property they're buying, 6 months, whatever the payment is. So in this example, of the payment was $3,000, $18,000 that they could get to in case of emergency. We can do a pre-underwrite on both of these programs before they find a home. Okay, so especially this be more now on the bank statement program, you want to make sure we review the bank statements. That's important. So we get that pre-underwritten approval before you start looking for a home. On this DSCR, of course, the income is not by the bank statements, it's by the property. So we just want to make sure the property has rental income enough to qualify for the payment. Of course, we don't have the property yet if it's a pre-approval, but we can review, you know, everything else. Credit basically is all we're doing. Okay. Don't need to be self-employed. Don't even need to have a job. Like I say, it can be newly self-employed. It doesn't matter. This program works because all we're qualifying for is the property. The great thing too, you can close in an LLC's name on this. So that's a lot of investors want to close in an LLC. This program allows for that. Okay. Conventional financing doesn't allow for that. You have to close in the buyer's personal name and then quit claim to the LLC later. You don't have to go through that with this program. You can close right in the LLC right from the get-go. Okay. One other thing I wanted to mention to you is I can do customized flyers for you. Again, I want your success. I want to help in any way I can do that. So flyers for you to talk about programs, the down payment assistance program like we talked about. I just did a couple screenshots that are customized to you. Your name, your logo, your Skyline properties, your contact information on that flyer. Or social media, things that you put on your Facebook, on your Instagram. And then all you're trying to do is get people talking, you know, talk to people, have conversations. And And then you're just keeping in touch with them. Okay. All right. Any questions, Pearline? Do you want to answer that question now?
Yeah, that's not related to that, but I have a question about as a loan officer, do you have any, are you, okay, maybe I should say it, I should not say that. Okay, last week I got a call from a loan officer because I have a client who's looking for a pre-approved loan. So this loan officer called me last week telling me that I have, for them to be qualified, I have to look for a seller who's willing to pay $18,000 closing cost. And then I said, I don't think I can find a seller who's willing to pay that much. And he said he has a real estate broker who can find a seller to pay $18,000 closing cost for my client. And I said, I don't. Why do you have to control? I asked the loan officer, why do you have to control what my client would be looking for a house? Why do you have to control for the closing cost? Why do you have to control for looking for a seller who's willing to pay $18,000 closing cost? So is that really what you do? Do you have any control of that one? That's my question, because I might lose my client if this loan officer can find a seller who's willing to pay the closing cost.
Right. Good question. So yeah, I don't know why it's 18,000. That seems a lot. So I don't know why in that case, but one of the things I do is I find out, how much money does the buyer have and how much are they, can they contribute to the purchase of the home? So let's say, they need $10,000 to buy this home, for example, but they don't have 10,000. I look at their bank statement, they got 1,500, so where's the difference going to come from? Well, they need a seller credit. If they can't get a gift from a relative, then it needs to be a seller credit. So I do let the realtor know, okay, yeah, in order to make this work for this particular house, we're going to need, this much credit from the seller. Now, like I say, I'd find out, why is it 18,000? Can you give me a little bit? That seems a little bit high.
You mentioned about that.
What is can I ask you, what is the purchase price on that?
Oh, I don't know yet, but he mentioned about I'm being required to look for a seller who's willing to pay a closing cost of $18,000. My question is, there are other options if it's because of the limitation of them buying a house. There are other options, like I can probably share my commission, or somebody else can give a gift. Those kind of things. That doesn't have to be a seller credit.
That's correct. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the realtor is allowed to. I never say that, but sometimes it does come up where, we need a little bit more money at closing, and the realtor will say, okay, I'll kick in $1,000 of my commission. That's allowable too. You can do that.
So can I contact my client and refer him to you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely want to get a second opinion on that situation, because you don't want to. You're doing your due diligence as your realtor, as a representative for your buyer. You want to make sure your buyer's taken care of. So I'd definitely get a second opinion. I'd be happy to talk to them and see what the situation is. Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Sorry, it is happening to me as well, that my client has already pre-approval a FHA loan, but she can find the money for the closing, and that's why I was asking about a closing assistant. But I'm gonna send my client to you as well.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Here's what typically happens. Remember I mentioned that Skyline broker that was one of the top producers at Skyline, and what he would, and I was one of his preferred lenders. Here's what he did. I'll just tell you. Basically, he'd find out, okay, Lauren, what is the max that'd be pre-approved for? 400,000. I'm just using that example. So he knows going out, and then he finds the property, and then he double checks with me. Okay, Lauren, you said 400,000. Now double check. Is that still for this property? I know the taxes can vary from property to property. Is it still 400,000? Yeah, 400,000. Okay, so I know these buyers don't have any money. or not enough money, let's put it that way. They need $8,000 to close. So he'd find a listing that would work, and he'd offer the seller, I tell you what, and they would agree to, let's say, 392,000. And they'd say, okay, Mr. Seller, we're going to give you 400,000, and we want you to give us this $8,000 seller credit. You're still going to get your 392. Basically, that would work for you. Is that 392, right? Right. Okay. 400,000 minus the 8, it gives you your 392. It's a win-win. You get the home, buyer gets the home, we can close on this. So that's typically what they would try to increase the purchase price some to cover that closing cost too, so that the seller would still get what they wanted to. Now, the only thing in that scenario, just keep in mind, is the appraisal has to appraise at that higher purchase price. So for example, let's say the home was listed at 390. The seller's not going to budge on that 390, and the buyer needs 8,000. So they say, okay, tell you what, we're going to give you 398, but you give me back $8,000. So you still get your 390. The buyer can still buy the home. The appraisal's got to come in at 398 because we base our loan on the lower of the appraised value or the purchase price. So even though if the purchase price is 398, that the appraiser is going to see it was listed at 390. Okay, and they'll try to support that 398, but if they can't, then if it comes in at 390, then we have to base our loan on that 390. So essentially, we got to come up with that $8,000 somewhere. So we can talk more on that. I don't want to take too much time because my time's almost up here. But that's typically what happens. We find the money somewhere. 18,000 seems like a lot. So yeah, I'd love to talk to that person. I'll end here real quick. Do's and don'ts. So you are with your clients more so than anybody, right? You're in the car, you're driving them, you're talking with them, you're building a relationship with them. You're going to hear them say things, right? So I want you to be mindful and keep your ears open of things that they might say. And also you're coaching them, you're guiding them. Guess what? They're going to see how knowledgeable you are, and it's just going to tie them on to not only to you, but also their friends and family to you, to refer them to you because you're so knowledgeable. So these are the little things that make you more knowledgeable. Do respond to the lender's request for information to avoid delays, okay? So typically what happens is we're working on things, we're getting things from the buyer, and great, we send it in for the approval and the buyer's waiting, okay? It's like, we're having to do all these things and now we're waiting. Now the lender comes back, okay, we need this. Okay, what we need, well, I want you to do that quickly, get those items quickly so I can get that back into the underwriter, because the underwriter doesn't look at it the same moment we get it to him. It basically goes back in line again, okay, right? So that's why we want to respond quickly so I can get it back in line quickly to avoid delays, okay? Don't deposit cash into your bank account. Cash deposits will not be considered as available funds, usually, okay? Especially FHA, okay? So when we're looking at those bank statements, we're looking at the deposits, and are there any cash deposits? Because a lot of times the underwriter has to back that out. So sometimes different ethnicity groups, they rather keep money at home versus the bank. So they have the money, it's just not in the bank. So you want to make sure you talk to the loan officer if that's the situation, or if money's coming in from somewhere, talk to the loan officer. We got to get that money in the bank because we got to see it that you have it, but it also has to be usable. Okay, we could see the deposit going in, but the underwriter may not count it as usable money if it's not deposited and seasoned. Okay. Borrower provide documents on every non-payroll deposit. Gifts require additional documentation. So we talked a little bit about that. So on a gift, we need a gift letter. The loan officer will give you, it's just a standard template. We just fill in the blanks. $5,000 gift, you know, we put in the people's names and their address and phone number. Nobody contacts them, it just makes the letter complete. And then we got to show proof of the money coming out of the gifter's account. We got to show proof of the money going into the buyer's account, okay? Don't allow or don't open any new bank accounts or credit card accounts. So this is an important one. This common question that I get, hey, Lauren, we're buying this home. Can we buy furniture? And I'm like, no, do not buy any. Don't let anybody pull your credit, because you are at 49.99% debt ratio. And if you go to 50.01, guess what? Your loan's going to be declined. Okay. So wait, you got to wait. Now, is it that way in every case? No, just because I want to say yes to the customer, of course. So just if you hear that coming up, you say, hey, put on the brakes, talk to your loan officer first, make sure that it is not going to hurt your debt to income ratio. Now, the great thing about movement mortgage is we do not pull a new credit report, okay? Meaning we're not going to see that they got a new account, or more importantly, maybe they have the same account, but it has now a bigger payment because they charged something on it. We do not pull a new credit report. It's good for 4 months. But we do get notified if they, they had a credit inquiry. If they've applied for credit, then we do get notified. Now we got to ask them about it. Okay. So the safest way is don't open any accounts. Don't apply for any accounts, period, until you have the recording numbers on that home. The home is yours. Once you have the recording numbers, it's done. Okay. Now you can go buy your furniture. Don't let anybody pull your credit. Okay. We talked about that until after you officially close, not officially pre-approved, officially closed. Because again, we're processing that loan and we're going to get notified when there was a inquiry. Okay. And we've got to find out, okay, did they get a new creditor out of this inquiry? Stay current on your existing credit accounts. Some lenders will re-pull credit right before closing. So let's say you had a late payment by accident, you missed the payment, darn it. Your credit score went from 740 to 680. You may not qualify now because your credit score went down. So, it's imperative during this 30-day process, please make sure your payments are paid on time. Do not be late. Just pay the minimum payment. Just pay the minimum payment. You don't have to pay more if you're tight. Just pay the minimum payment. Do not be late, okay, until we have closing, okay? Don't make any purchases. We talked about that until after closing. Don't quit or change your job. I'm pre-approved. I had this happen once years ago. They quit their job thinking, hey, we're pre-approved, we're good to go. Well, no, you're not. The lender will call the job, whoever you work for, prior to we close. So 72 hours, we have to call the employer. Are they still working? Now, we don't talk about income. We already verified their income. We just want to make sure they're working still. Call before you do. Once you do, it's done. Okay. So if you have a question, you hear something, oh, that might cause a problem, call before you do it just to make sure. Call the lender. Okay. Like I say, I'm available 7 days a week. I'm there to help. I don't care if I'm getting the transaction. All I care about is your success. Okay. Okay. This is the ending. This basically just walks you through. The first step is you're connecting to the loan officer. We're setting expectations. We're working as a team here. We use that Easy app to get the application going, or we can do the phone call. Step 3, we get that upfront underwriting. We want to get that. That's very important to make sure, because just because the loan officer says you're good to go does not mean you're good to go. The underwriter's got to make sure you're good to go too, right? So we want to get that before you start looking for a home. Okay, that's the power of moving mortgage. Get that underwritten pre-approval. Find a rock star real estate agent. Do you know of any? I'm looking for a rock star loan real estate broker. Do you guys know of any? Okay, I'm looking at a few right now. I can tell you, rock stars. Go shopping. That's the fun part. Go shopping for the home. Make that offer on their home. Number 7. Armed with your underwritten pre-approval, you can stand out amongst your competition. Score that dream home so your offer is accepted. Time to celebrate. Hey, you got your offer accepted. You've come a long way since taking that application. Now we're going to do all the final paperwork. Your loan will continue through the approval process. We strive to complete it in only 7 business days. Seal the deal. Number 10, our goal is to have every pre-approved loan close with 1 business day. So that what we're saying there is once we have that final clear to close approval, we want docs out within 1 business day. We're not looking at the closing day on the contract. Let's say our closing date was August or October 29th, but we're clear to close today, October 20th. I want docs out tomorrow, October 21st, or the next business day, Monday. I want docs out by Monday. I don't care that we still have 8 days till closing. I want docs out now because that's what our goal is, okay? I like stress-free closings. I like, hey, yeah, with closings of the 29th, we can close, no rush for escrow or the buyers or the sellers, stress-free. Or we can say this to all buyers, hey, we can close early if you want. I mean, if it works for the buyer and the seller, we could close a week early. Is that good for all parties? We could close early if we can. So that's how we work here. And then welcome home. Congratulations on buying your new home. All right. Well, hey, everybody. Unless there's any questions, my time is up. I just want to thank you so much for your time. Cameron has my name and contact information. You have it too. Call me. I'd love to have coffee with you. Take you out to lunch, talk to you more about your goals and how I can help make your goals reality. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Cameron.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Everybody, I put his contact information in the message board. So if you need to contact him, having a lender ask to use your commission for $18,000 of closing costs is absolutely absurd. You should be talking to another lender, talking to Lauren as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. See y'all. Thanks again.
See you, Lauren.
Thank you. Thank you.
So typically we take about a 5-minute break. We've gone a little bit of overtime. Just do people want to take a quick break?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
please.
Okay, so it's 12:59. Let's come back at 1:05. Is that good? 6
Okay.
minutes?
Yeah.
All right. 1:05. See you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Sorry for pushing the break back so late. But yeah, sometimes learning title, escrow, and lending is a really important part of knowing real estate. If you can understand how to read a closing statement and double checking stuff, some closing statement determines your commission. So if you can make sure your commission's right, you can make sure, the numbers all look right. That's kind of putting yourself apart. It's not just knowing contracts and negotiating. It's knowing the whole aspect of it. And I know it can be overwhelming, but learning this stuff early is what's going to put you apart from just any other real estate broker. And kind of just to go into what Marisa Bell and Fraulein were asking about, people asking for closing costs. Right now is a buyer's market, right? The market's kind of taken a shift where buyers have the advantage. So if they're asking for your commission, you don't need to do that. You can negotiate. There's a lot of other ways to negotiate, their closing costs, whether you offer under list or like Lauren was saying, offering a little bit above or adjusting the purchase price, manipulating the purchase price to cover their closing cost. There's a lot of good ways to do that. And if you work with your branch manager and a lender, good lender, there's a lot of creative ways we can come up to where you don't have to manipulate your commission. So that's not, if a lender's asking you to do that, that's not the lender you want to be working with. Okay, well, I'm going to go into some of the technology things. First, we'll start with, we have a couple tools that we offer, some great tools. And I'll start with our website and portal. So I'm going to share my screen. So can you guys see my screen? Give me a thumbs up if you can. Perfect. The back end, the broker's portal.
I'm sharing.
Oh God.
I don't see that. I don't see that. No, I don't see it.
That's not good. What about now?
Boarding stop.
Let me try and get out of this screen scare. Okay. What about now?
No. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Sorry if this was glitching out on me yesterday too, and I'm not sure if it's our Wi-Fi from home. I'm sick, so I have to work from home, but it might be our Wi-Fi or maybe the Zoom. But sorry if it glitches out, but just deal with me if you can. So as you guys know, we got a brand new website brought to you by realgeeks.com. I'm going to minimize this so you guys can see my screen. So a lot of cool tools on just the general website. You guys can use it to do searches and market reports. But one of the main tools is accessing the broker portal. So from right here, you'll be able to log into your broker portal account, which is kind of like what we refer to as our back end system. And you're going to have a lot of resources here. So, any of the new news that we have going on, we'll put here, and any quick links. But this sidebar is going to have a lot of cool stuff for you. So the top is going to be the dashboard. And then we go to the next section, we have all of our new broker tools. So you guys should have got a lot of this. This is kind of like in line with the welcome email, kind of just a welcome from us and a link to all of our social media, and then a checklist of how to get started, some of the tasks, like some of the classes you need to take, and then how to join the Essentials class series, which is our classes, MLS classes, SkySlope, the program that you're going to be using for sending all of your paperwork in. So it's going to have instructions on how to get SkySlope into there, ordering your business cards. As you guys know, we use a program called Vistaprint. So you can order it through Vistaprint, or if you want to build your own business cards, we have all of the rules and regulations for the Department of Licensing. So, you guys don't have to use our templates. You can use your own templates, but you just need to make sure that it abides by the DOL guidelines. So if you're building your own business cards, the best thing to do is like build them and then send it to one of our managers so we can review, make sure it abides by the guidelines, and then you can go and produce your cards. That way you're not building a bunch of cards and having to redo them because the DOL doesn't approve of the design. And it's not a Skyline rule, it's a Department of Licensing rule. Signs. So we work with a bunch of different sign installers. So we have our own generic signs at the offices that you guys can purchase. They're, anywhere from like $10 to $35. But the best marketing you can do is ordering your own custom signs. So we partner with a bunch of different sign companies. If you're on the east side, the closest one is Sign Pros. And they can produce your sign. And then not only do they produce it, but they install it as well. It costs like 50 to 60 bucks for them to go and dig a hole and install the yard arm, better than having to do it yourself and buying a bunch of yard arms. So, but we have our templates with all the major sign companies, and I'm sure it breaks down later in the dashboard what you need to do. Cloud CMA, we'll go through Cloud CMA today and how to use Cloud CMA. Web Agent Portal, that's what we use for tracking all of our billing. So if you ever have any questions for billing, you can log into Web Agent Portal from here and check your billing information. And then join the private Skyline Brokers group. If you guys haven't done that yet, I'll show you how to do that when we go to the social media section. But we have our own internal Skyline Brokers group that you guys can join. And it's a good place for looking for referrals and showings and open house opportunities. And then just kind of the continuing education that you guys need to do for your clock hours. A bunch of other different manuals down here that you guys can utilize. Let's go on to the next section. General, so it's kind of going to have your staff contacts, how to access your email. That's really important. Some offers and information documents. So this is kind of good. A lot of manuals that we've put together for how to do sign orders, broker recommended vendors. If you guys want a vendors list, I was talking to, I think, Marisa Bell about getting her a photographer, inspector, but we have our whole list of all of our preferred lenders here, or vendors, that you can look up anywhere from handyman to painters to paving. So that's a good resource for you to have. What else? Accounting, same thing. So like if you guys need to change your credit card information or change your commission plan, which you can change your commission structure twice a year, all those forms are going to be included right here, where you can go and redo, direct deposit, broker deactivation. All of that information is going to be included on this page. Insurance documents. So if you need to redo your insurance policy, or if you need these for your insurance because you're working as a real estate broker, all that information is going to be there. Because you're self-employed, your insurance is through your own agency, but we have sometimes they'll ask for a certificate or policy, so we can send that to you as well. And then Web Agent is the program that we spoke about that you can use your billing for, and you look up your billing, and that's all right here as well. So branding, all of our logos and branding logos are going to be included here. So if you go to Skyline branding, you can see all the different examples of logos that are downloadable. You can download each kind of file, so you can use it for your own marketing or business cards. We also have a luxury division. So we do luxury branding for more high-end listings. We have a luxury signs and luxury lights. So if you have a high-end listing coming up and you think it qualifies, just let us know and we can get you the luxury branding package for that. Commercial branding. So I get this question all the time. What kind of license do I need to be a commercial broker? your license qualifies you for being a commercial broker. The only thing that you need is the knowledge and the training. So Skyline Properties is partnered with 3 of the major commercial databases, which is SEBA, CoStar, and LoopNet. So if commercial is something that you're thinking about doing, just reach out to any of your managers and we can kind of set you up with how to do commercial. We even have a guide right here to how to join commercial. Yeah, I see we have a couple questions. Oh, no questions. Okay. We talked about business cards. It's the link to Vistaprint. And then here's the link to all the different sign companies. So all the ones that have our signs are going to be located right here. I've used Sign Pros, but these are depending on where most your listings are going to be. You want to find one that's going to be the closest, so you're not going to be paying for the extra drive. Education. So our training calendar is going to be located 2 places. It's going to be located in the back end, and then you get a quicker access to right here from the website. So if you just want to just look up our class calendar, you can just go from the front of the website and go to classes. You don't actually have to come all the way to the back end. You'll have all of our classes located right here. Keep in mind, every month our class calendar changes. So, and you guys can take these classes as many times as you want. We actually, we would recommend that you take it as many times, because I know it's hard to absorb all this information on the first go. So you can take these classes as many times as you want. Okay, where were we? All right, renewal information. So every 2 years, you guys are going to need to renew your license. Your first renewal is 90 hours. We do offer some clock hour classes, but to do your whole renewal in 3-hour segments, it'll probably take forever. So what we recommend for at least your first renewal is probably looking at one of these real estate schools that offer a renewal package. Rockwell, Greystone, somewhere around 150 to 200 bucks. And you can just do it all at home instead of having to go to 3-hour segments. But yeah, Fraulein, you have a question?
Yeah, how would I know when I need to complete the 90 hours? Is that being tracked by Skyline?
Yes. So if you know how to log into your SAW account, it's exactly 2 years from your license activation date. But if you don't know how to do that, just reach out to, you're with my office, so just reach out to Connie, and Connie can look up and see when your renewal is due.
Yeah, before it's too late to complete the 90 hours. So I think I need enough time, like 6 months before or 1 year before my renewal, to so that I would know how many more hours to take.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, if you just call Connie, she'll let you know. But we have a system where we give you a heads up 6 months ahead.
Okay.
So we let you know 6 months ahead. We set like a calendar reminder where we let all of our brokers know 6 months ahead. So I'm guessing you're not at that 6-month point if you haven't received that email. But if you want to be 100% sure, just reach out to Connie and she can look up your license for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Sorry, Camera.
Yeah.
Can I start right now with that course, or it's expired in 1 year and 1 year and a half? I need to renovate, and is that hour is not gonna work?
No, you can do it. You can do it as soon as possible. You won't be. I don't think you'll be able to actually renew your license until you get closer to that 2 year period. But you can start the courses as soon as you want.
Oh, okay. That's
Yep.
what my
Yep. And right here, Fraulein, is where you can log into your SAW account. So this is where you can look up all your licensing information. So, and we have a step-by-step of how to do that and look up your license. So, and how to renew your license as well. But if you just want to log in and see what the expiration date is, it'll be in there. And if you have trouble with that, Connie or I can definitely help you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Customizable templates. So if you guys want flyer templates, we have all sorts of flyer templates. I'm going to teach you a couple of different other a couple different flyer programs. Also, the MLS offers an awesome flyer program where they will edit and print it for you. And all you have to do is go pick it up. And then we have 2 programs too, where we can show you where you can do your own flyers and then print them at all of our offices. So all of our offices have high-end laser jet printers. We have thick cut paper, or you can even buy your own thick cut paper and bring it in and put it onto like nice glossy flyers. So if you have flyers, just reach out to like either your office admin. If you want flyers for listing, just reach out to your office admin or reach out to your manager, and we can let you know all the different options. There's a bunch of different options for flyers through Skyline Properties. Forms. So we've built a bunch of different internal forms for you guys to be able to utilize for your real estate. A lot of this stuff will be taught in the new broker orientation part 1. But anywhere from like a form 17 waiver for estate sales and not having a seller disclosure, or a letter of intent or a request of proposal. Or for instance, if you're doing like a co-listing agreement or partnership agreement or shared commission agreement. So like if you're working with another broker on a transaction, you want to have an agreement between your own commissions. The MLS doesn't have that, but we've built these forms for you so you can use them for your own real estate. So all of this stuff has been all these documents have been drafted by a licensed attorney, and you can utilize it for your own for your own business. Excuse me. Account settings. So this is where you're going to be able to customize your website. So Skyline Properties provides a bunch of different technology for you, but one of the tools that we provide is oh, I'm in the wrong spot. Sorry. Let me go back. Not that. That's just your information. But you have the ability to, where is it? Account settings, my profile, home. Why am I missing it? Why does this look different? You have a bunch of, there's a way that you can customize your bio, company info, Cameron, profile, change password, log out. No, that's not it. Maybe I'm in the wrong account, but when you guys log in, you should have a, there should be somewhere, dashboard, new brokers, accounting, ending, new information, forms, accounting, log out. You should have a button somewhere up here where you can click and change all the settings on your website. For instance, like every broker is provided with a with their own website. So if I go in, Google my name, Cameron Nauser, first, obviously, there's going to be my Google business page, which actually I recommend all of you guys doing. Having as much of a web presence on the internet is important, and it's free to build your own Google business page, and you can get reviews and all that. But another thing is you're going to have your personal website, and the way you can do that is just click here, and then you can edit your bio and all that. I don't know why it's not showing up on my page, but when you guys log in, you should have somewhere up here to be able to customize. Let me see if I'm missing it. Yeah, I'll figure out why, and most of you I can message after and let you know where I'm missing to general. Right here. Update web profile right there. Sorry. Update web profile. So this is where you're going to be able to update your website. So you can, change your name, change your name on profile page. So if you want to change it to like whatever your business name is, change your title. So if you want to be, you know, real estate broker, branch manager, whatever, you can add or delete your photo. Content is going to be your bio. You can change your phone or email. You can add any languages spoken. You can add any listings. So if you have a listing, a specific listing that you want to display on the page, you can put the MLS number in there, and change all the listings that are showing. If you don't have any active listings, it's just going to populate whatever like listings are in your office. So it just shows our office's listings. But if you want a specific listing to show up, which your listing will show up if you have an active listing, but if you want a specific one to show up, you can put the MLS number in there. Or, you know, like it says, you can pick King County waterfront homes, or, you know, whatever style of home you want, you can put it in there, and we can put it specific to whatever style of home you want. Additional notes, these are just going to be for our staff. So once you submit that, it's going to go to your admin, and they're going to go through and customize everything to the way you put in this form. And that's how you update your website. Do we have any questions about that? And by the way, it takes, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, if we update the website, what's that meant? Is that gonna be shown on Google, something like that? I don't know.
Yes. So just like I showed you, when I Google my name, and then the crazy thing is, I built my own website. I went and spent all this money and built my own website, but because the Skyline Properties website is so strong, you know, they spend so much money on advertisement. That's the first one that comes up. You know, I have a Redfin account, I have a Skyline Properties. So let's see where my website comes up. All the way at the bottom, because I haven't paid for the Google space to have it come to the top. And the funny thing is, this is my custom website. You know, this is my website that I have, but you know, the Skyline Property website, because it's so strong, has paid for so much Google ad space, it comes up at the top of the list.
I'm curious to know, because I did not do anything with the website, my name, but I'm getting texts about asking me if they can be my client, and then I asked them, how did you get my name? And they said it's on the website.
That might just be spam. Forward me those
Okay.
texts so I can see them, because yes, it shows that you're a licensed real estate broker. So all these people want to send you leads and have you be part of their lead generation program and buyers lists and stuff like that. A lot of that stuff is spam, because as a real estate broker, being on the MLS, your name is going to be on the internet. So these people can get access to your phone contact, and contact you that way. But are you getting legitimate buyers who are wanting to actually buy?
I'm getting a text is asking me if they're asking me I can refer you to a client for a referral fee, those kind of things. And
Yes, that's spam.
Oh,
That's spam.
okay.
Those are spam. Don't respond to those.
Okay.
Yeah. That's spam. That's people trying to sell lead generation programs and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any questions about the back end before I move on to Cloud CMA and some other marketing tools? All right, I'll keep moving on. So an awesome tool that we offer for doing comparative market analysis is called Cloud CMA. All of you guys get access through this. We pay for it for all of our brokers to have. And it's an awesome tool for doing comparative market analysis. I think I was talking to Marisabel about how to give a valuation for her client. And this is an awesome tool. And I'm going to show you guys actually how to do a CMA together. So when you get in the CMA tool, you guys got a couple buttons to push on. One's going to be the CMA. They also build flyers. You can put together buyer tours, property tours, but the two tools that I mainly use are the CMA and the flyer tool. So we're going to start with doing a CMA today, and I'm going to just show you how to do like a mock CMA. So we'll click on create new report. Does anyone have like a listing coming up, or an address they want to use as an example for the CMA?
Yeah, mine's great.
Perfect. Can you type in the chat for me?
Yep. Oh, in the chat.
So I'm gonna start filling out the information, and we're just gonna say our client is Marisabel Perez. Hopefully I spelled that right. Perfect. Okay, we're gonna do a condo. Okay, so when I'm starting my CMA, I want to have a couple windows open. Obviously, I want to have the CMA window open. I also want to be logged into the MLS and have two windows open in the MLS. So the windows that you want to have open in the MLS are going to be your matrix window, which is where you go to do your search. So I'm going to open up a general search window. And then the next window that I want to have open is called Realist. Realist is a program that pulls mostly from like tax records, where you can find a bunch of information about a property without actually going to the property. It pulls from like the tax records, it pulls from old solds, but you can find some information from that without going to the property. So let's copy and paste unit. Sometimes it's hard to find condos from here, but I'll do my best. Unless you have a tax ID. You don't have the tax ID handy, do you? Marisabel?
No, any idea.
What's the city?
Shoreline.
Okay. We can probably find it. Oh, found it on I proved myself wrong. Found it first try.
Yeah.
Perfect. So Realist is going to have some information. You want to start from the top. You want to make sure that you're, the right address. You can verify tax ID. But one of the most important things is verifying who you're talking to, who's on title. So right here, if I see Marisabel's name, Perez, I know that I'm talking to the right person. I've had stories where a son's thought he could sell his parents' home without their authorization, and met with a real estate broker and started the whole process just to find out that he never even had the authorization. His parents never wanted to sell. So it's good to verify who you're talking to is actually on title. And you can do this through Realist quickly, or you can pull title, and they can, title is going to give you a more in-depth report, but you can pull title to get, exactly who's on title. As we scroll down, so then it's going to have the tax ID. So that's what I was asking Marisabel for, is the tax ID, because that's the most accurate way to find a property. And then if we click on this, it'll take you to whatever the county website is. So King County, where it'll show, all the county information about taxes and assessed value for land, and all the contact information for everyone at the county. So if you want to go to the Department of Assessments or whatever is related, it's going to have it right here. And then as we scroll down, it'll have your assessed tax year and then annual taxes. That's important to know what the annual taxes are, even if you're buying, because that goes into what their monthly payments are going to be. So you can find that right here. As you scroll down, now you're going to find some information of the property, and we're going to need this all for doing the CMA. So it tells you the number of bedrooms and baths, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's a 1979 build. It's 1,189 square feet. It looks like it's on the 4th story, so it's a higher story. It's on a ground floor. It looks like it has a pool. And then if we continue to scroll down, sometimes it will have the listing. So she bought it in 2020, which is fairly new. And then you could even go to the old listing and kind of scroll through the pictures to get a better idea of, what the condition of the home is before going to your listing appointment. So a nice new unit, spacious, looks turnkey. The kitchen cabinets could have, potentially at some point be updated, but nice new paint.
Now it's updated, I promise.
Oh, okay. You updated everything?
Yeah.
See, but it's hard to ask that, right? So like when I go to an appointment, if they're willing to like sit down and give me some information, have you updated all this stuff, then great, you have a better idea. But if you want to just use a general idea and be broad, you can give a bigger spectrum of price. And then when you can go there, you can define it based off of like the higher end listings and lower end listings. So it just depends on if you've seen the property or not. If you've seen the property, you know exactly what condition it's in, then you can give a more defined price. You know that the property is either outdated or updated. But if you're just getting ready for a listing appointment, you haven't seen the property, then I would keep your your numbers a little bit more broad, maybe put a little bit more outdated units and updated units so you can have a bigger spectrum to utilize rather than just having updated units. But great layout, 3 bedrooms, very spacious. So now that we have a better, and it's got a washer and dryer. So we want to make sure that the comps we're using has a washer and dryer in the unit. Nice deck area. Great. So it's an awesome unit. Now we can start our search. So how I start my search is I'll go back to the matrix window where we have our general search, and we're going to look up a few different styles of homes. For the CMA, we're just going to want to use sold because in this market and even in the market that we were before, properties are selling above or below what our list price is. So using an active or pending is not going to give us a true value of what's going to sell for, but it is going to give us a current market experience, right? So we're going to know from based off of how much activity these properties are having, the condition of these properties. You can call in and talk to the listing broker about it just to get feedback on how everything's going. So I like to when I do my search, I like to also include active, pending inspections, just to call on those and get a better market, get better market information that you can take on to your client. And just doing that due diligence, that's just a sign of you going above and beyond, maybe even going and touring them before you have your appointment. That's how you can kind of put yourself apart from other brokers. And next we'll do our search. So I'll put the way you can do your search. There's a bunch of different ways. You can, pick county, area, even define it down by community. But I like to just do a general map search. So what this does is you put the address in, you pick the address, and then you can start from like a quarter mile, half mile, and it just does a radius. If you want to get more specific, there's so many ways you can get specific. You can do it by community. We want to pick condominium because it's a condominium. If you're doing manufactured homes, you can pick like manufactured home, residential. And then you can scroll down here. Like if you're on for instance, like our neighborhood's on the border of Renton and Bellevue. So I don't want to use properties that are Renton school district just because Bellevue's kind of superior and the houses in the Bellevue school district are going to be a little more expensive. So you can break this down however which way you want. There's all these other fields that you can ask. So like if you're looking for just 1.5 story or a tri-level, there's all these different ways that you can define your search even more and more. And then you can add all these fields. You can add or remove any field you want. ADU. So if it has an ADU, additional dwelling unit in a bathroom, or what's some good ones that we can kind of bring up? Financing type, that's really important. There's all these other options that you can utilize. You can kind of scroll through this and get a better idea, but all these things that you can add to define your search. So we'll start with this. Because it's a larger unit, maybe I'll do, like 800 to 1,300 square feet. And because the bedrooms are 3 bedrooms, which is like superior to most condominiums, we'll do 3+ for condos. And then did the address not work? Okay, and we'll click on this. And we'll do a mile to see how much we got. Oh, we have no comps at a mile. What did I do? Let me just get rid of some of this stuff. Did I click on something that might have, okay, let's start there.
But it should be because the just apartment next door is active now. They are selling it.
Okay, let me see what I might have done something that that messed up that search. So let's take a look.
Here you are, the 204, the first one that was in there.
Which one?
The list, when the list appeared. Oh, let's see. The first one, 204. This is active.
This one?
Uh-huh.
Okay, got it. So yeah, this is the same building, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. It's been on for 114 days though, without a price reduction. So this wouldn't be a good gauge of what your pricing would be at. And it looks like they've done a lot of price reductions. They started at $599, but you could call and see how their activity's been. They dropped their price on 10/12 to $459, which is a pretty drastic price reduction. So this could be a good one that you can call on. But let's keep going and seeing what other units, see if there's other units. So this is another one, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bath, a little bit bigger.
This is some house.
Townhouse. Okay, got it. So we'll keep scrolling. This is just a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 2 bedroom, 1 bath, 2 bedroom, 1 bath, 2 bedroom, 2 bath. Yeah, so this is a tough unit to price because there's 2 bedroom, 2 baths. You might have to, broaden your criteria. Let's see if we can go. Let's do 2 miles. And let's do 3+. And see what we find. Let's do 1 mile. Okay, so now we're oh, we didn't do apartments. Let's do condominium. Yes, 3+. Okay, I don't know why this is classified as a condominium because it's a house. There's still this one. This is the townhome, another townhome, another townhome. Okay, let's keep broadening our search. Let's go 2 miles and see if we can find something. Let's define our square footage. So we'll go 900 to 1300. We only have 1 match. How did I mess that up? 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,267. I wouldn't say this is the best comp because it is kind of a townhome. How far do we need to go out to find a comp? Maybe we can go, let's go a little bit further back. Let's go 365 days and see if we can find something. Search. Okay, there we go. We found something, but I don't know if this is accurate because it's before the market dropped. So yeah, for this type of scenario, you're gonna have to be a little creative. You're gonna have to go a little bit further out. You're gonna have to look up what the price per square footage was on average. Maybe even use that one that's active as a gauge and go, if they're not having activity, probably list somewhere below that. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to kind of just get going and use these as examples so I can show you actually how to do this, the CMA. So now that we have everything dialed in, we want to put the address here too. So let's do that. Let's put the address. And then this actually feeds from, see sometimes, yeah. So, and then we'll check to make sure those are all right. 3.2, I think the square footage was something different. The square footage was 1,189. So it's pretty close, but we'll confirm that 1,189. And we'll do it as a single family. And then if you want to add any notes here, you can add notes. And this is the two ways you add your comparables. So there's two, you can either do like a general search where you'll do a quick and dirty and it'll pull all the comps that it thinks based off of an algorithm. It's not a bad way, but it's not completely accurate because the system it doesn't look at like the updates and it doesn't look at the schools. It doesn't really break it down as well as a professional real estate broker could. So typically I like to do this method. But for the sake of time, I would, I'd spend more time finding better comps, but I'm just going to start using these comps just to show you guys how to actually do the CMA itself. So you'll start just copying and pasting these into the search. And let's find another one. Okay, so here's a good one sold. This one sold for 411. Why so low? Well, it's an outdated unit. So as Marisa Bell said, they've done new countertops and stuff. So, there's actually a pretty good gauge. You can use this as where you should price. It'd be definitely over this price, but this listed at 400, sold at 411. It sold a year ago. So it was a different marketplace, but that gives you an idea, a general ballpark. Okay, let's see what else we have. Okay, it's 430, 3-bedroom, square footage is accurate. So, we could use this as well. But same thing, it sold 12/26, 2021. So different marketplace. Oh, come on. All right, let's find one more comp. I like to have it.
Minimum, how many do you need to put in there?
Sorry?
Minimum, how many?
You can do, there's no minimum or maximum, but I like to have, like, for a good CMA, I would like to have 5 good comps. But sometimes that, as you see with like this search, maybe that's not a possibility. So having 2 good comps versus 5 not so accurate comps may be the way to go. But I like to have 5 good comps, 5 good comparables would be a good number.
Okay.
And this is a townhome, so I'm not going to throw this one in. So I got 3 decent comps. The timeline's not very accurate with when everything's about almost a year away, but for the sake of time, we'll use these. And then all you got to do is click fetch listings.
Can you put the active that is right now in 460 or is not?
Sure. Yeah, we can add that. So that's actually something I can teach you guys right now. So even after I've gone and why did the active disappear? What did I do to make the active disappear?
Oh, no, it's the same. Sure.
Where did it go? This one, right? Yeah, that's it right there. Okay, so now I can teach you guys something. So even after I've gone on to the next step where I'm organizing, if I want to add one, I can just go right here and click add. And then we can just put the MLS number right there. Add listing. Bam. And then it's added. Or if I decide I want to remove something, like I don't want this one, it's too much of a high outlier, which actually I'll do. I'll click on this and I'll remove that from my comparables. That way I have, more of a accurate pricing. And I think that's a good move for this one because $599 seems really high. So now I have 3 good comps. The next step is to click, you can put a suggest price. So if you want to give a recommended price, you can put it right here. But here's a price guide of all active sold, and it gives you a low, medium, average. But if you want to give a suggest price, you can put something in there. And then next is to click customize report. And here's how you can customize the report itself. So there's all these different pages that, you know, Cloud CMA and Skyline Properties have built for you guys to be able to utilize for your report. But you guys can, based off of what kind of client you're working with, manipulate that. So if you have a client who just wants to see, you know, the pricing, the pricing stuff. So I would just go, you can actually even pick out these different layouts, or no, different templates. If you want someone who just wants to see comps only, you can click on comps only, where it just shows the numbers and how to contact you. And then from there, if you want to add, like, for instance, you can even add your own resume, you can do an introduction, and all this stuff's editable. So if you want to do like your own cover letter, agent resume, information about our company, you can add or delete those pages. So just, and then once you build a template that you like if you've gone through this and build something that you want to use for future times, you can just go to custom, and then you can save the template, save for future use. And that way you don't have to redo that whole template. So you guys can go around and play with this and find a template that you like. And all of this stuff that's editable is also editable at your settings as well. So if you go up here and want to go to your settings, you can edit all those pages and add photos or whatever you need. You can also change the theme, which is going to be the color of the layout. And then you can change the layout pages. So if you want more numbers, more pictures, just depending on which kind of client you're working with, you can define those things. Once you have that all dialed in, all you have to do is click publish report. And then you have a report right here. And it provides two different kinds of reports. It provides a PDF, which is something that you can like print out or email the PDF. And then it also provides this awesome live report, which is more like kind of like a website thing that they can utilize. And the cool thing about this, if you send this to them and you have Zoom, you can even do like Zoom meetings. So you can send it to them and then like start the Zoom meeting. And if you link it to your Zoom account, you can do Zoom meetings where you go over this report with them and it's connected. And this can be updated. So if they have this link and you go and add and change listings, it's going to update it on that link. So this is like an active report, whereas the PDF, it's not an active report, but this can always be updated. And if they have this link saved on their desktop, like if they save this link, when they go and click on it, it's going to give them the new report that you have. So that's kind of what, the MLS also offers a CMA tool, but this is way more superior than the CMA tool that the MLS offers. It also has a presentation, so you can go like page by page and go through the report.
And where can I find all the prices together to choose a price?
Where can you find like what
the
page
prices
you mean?
or the here.
Yep. So it's going to have all the prices, the suggested prices page by page next to each other. And then you just got to decide, you got to recommend where you think you should lie. Would you be at this price where they've been on for almost 450 days or somewhere closer to here where it actually sold? But this is a hard property because there's just not a lot of comps. But typically you'll have an easier time. But if you ever have, if you ever need help or guidance with a CMA, that's what our branch managers are here for, to help you with these kind of things. So if you need help with like getting a good valuation of a property, just reach out to your manager and we'll help you through the process. We'll take a look ourselves and give you our professional point of view as well. I'm going to keep zooming through the tools because we're running out of time. Cloud CMA also has a flyer tool. Super easy way to build a flyer before you have a listing. It's not the best because it's kind of just a simple template, but I'll just show you really quickly their flyer tool. So let me find a new listing. Let's go to the matrix dashboard. So let's find like a new listing and build a flyer for it really quick. So I'm just going to just do it off of this Bridal Trails condo.
Also work for open houses as well?
Yeah, it works for open houses as well. I'll teach you another couple good tools for open houses though.
Okay.
So, and then we'll put this MLS. And then it pulls the property from the MLS system. And then you can go and customize your flyer. So you have different themes you can pick from, layouts, different layouts right here, whatever layout you want. And then you can change the font. So if you want to change the font, and then if you want to do like open house or just list, if you want to change the title to like open house, you can go like right there. Oops. Open house, you can change that right there. And then change any of this information, you can do that. So it's all can be manipulated. That's a quick and easy way to make a flyer. I'm going to show you a couple other tools. Obviously, I showed you on the back on the dashboard. On our back end, we have all the templates that you can use for flyers. There's a bunch of other tools that I want to teach you guys about. So List Report is a great tool, especially if you're new and want a quick and easy free way to build flyers. And another cool thing they have is open house checklists. So a great way to build your business is through doing open houses. And List Report will build you a checklist. It will build you a check-in list. Sorry, a check-in list. It will build flyers for you. It'll build all these other tools that you can use for your marketing. So let's go to this one. This is an old listing of mine. So there's all these different digital medias that you can use. So like this is going to be shareable onto your Facebook. So you can like view it and share it. Because it's not an active listing, it says that we'll notify you when it's ready. But if it was an active listing, it would be available. It builds a website for your listing. So like if you click on here, it'll give you a URL that you can use with a cool website. Go on. Come on. I need to call Comcast. I think we got the cheap internet this month. I feel like I upgrade my internet and it's really good for like 2-3 months and then it just slows down. I don't know if you guys have that problem with Comcast too, but
No, you should change the company.
it's the problem. Comcast is a monopoly in our area. There's nothing else.
Oh.
Who do you use for internet?
Oh no, I'm not sure. My husband is in charge of that.
Yeah, I wish I could because I hate Comcast. Their customer service is horrible and well, I'm not sure why that's not working, but it builds a website and then it has all these cool print stuff that you guys can use. So like an open house flyer, open house that has your phone number. It has a QR code that you can link to your cell phone. You do have to partner with a lender. So like Jackie Shui from Movement Mortgage or even Lauren Rickard from Movement Mortgage has access to this. So you partner with a lender and it markets you and them. And that's how you get all this free marketing for free. And this stuff is shareable, it's printable. Another cool thing is that I love is the open house check-in list. So open house sign-in sheet. With doing open houses, the most important thing is getting the client's contact information. It's not handing out business cards. So having a checklist is very important. Having a way to get their information, not give your information. So as people come in, you can have this at the front in a nice binder. Have them say, hey, the seller has requested that everyone check in, especially at a time like this where people are trying to track COVID and all that. So having a checklist, people will be more than happy to sign in. And then as they walk in, would you like me to give you a tour or would you like to tour the place yourself? And then on the way out, what'd you think about it? Oh, I did like it. Or if I didn't like it, well, I know a few other properties in the area. I'm a market specialist. Can we set up a time after I'm done with this open house to go see a few more houses? And then you have their contact information. you can call them to schedule that. So having a checklist is very important for open house, and this tool prints you out a quick and easy checklist. But a bunch of other stuff, so go and check this out. Another great program is Canva. So if you guys are doing social media, Canva helps you build all these different tools. The basic site is free, but I do all of my social media for, I build videos on here. Like I was building a video for Skyline Properties. I do all my sold and active flyers on here. So for my property, I don't know why this shows a house property, but it's a 5-acre land. I built that. So Canva is another awesome tool that you guys can use for your social media, building videos, building any kind of designs. Just sold. I think the basic program is free, but if you want to be a little bit more advanced, it costs $8 a month. But it's a great tool for building any kind of social media, any kind of flyers. So that's just another tool that you guys can utilize. As for our social media, I forgot to tell you guys, if you guys want to join a couple of different groups that are good to Facebook groups that are good to be part of. Social media is a very important tool in this day and age. And I know it sucks because I don't like being part of social media, but it's kind of one of the easiest, cheapest way to get out to your friends, family, and your circle. So let's go to Facebook. Goodness, my internet just does not want to work today. So a couple groups that you guys should join are going to be obviously our Skyline Brokers group. So if you're not a member of our Skyline Brokers group, I would highly recommend going and joining because this is how you can get open house opportunities. If you want to be like a showing assistant. Oh, there's Marisa Bell.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations for joining. So she could go here and she could share this, she could share this to her social media. There's all sorts of stuff that, it didn't allow you to share it?
No, it doesn't show me the share option.
Okay. I will figure out how to allow you to share that. The problem is it's an internal group, but I'll figure out a way where we can get this image for you. That's another way you could do. You could save image. Yeah, you could save the image to desktop. And then because this is an internal group, you could just save that and then go to your own page, for instance. So let me go to my business page, switch to my business page. And share photo. You can share photo. Is it not? Let's work together to find a way for you to share that. I'm sure you can share it from a photo. Yeah. You can upload it to a photo. Save the photo and then upload it. Photos, videos. So how do I go to look up photos? Add to your photos, videos, photos. I'll find a way. I'll find a way where we can share that.
Okay, no worries. Also, you were talking about Canvas, but is that for create? But there is any link or so that to find some videos or images to share in social media?
What kind of images are you looking for?
Real estate, someone giving a key to other people or little house.
Yeah, but Canva has all that stuff. So like when you go to templates, and you just search real estate. So it has all these different templates that you can just go and modify. Is that what you're kind of asking for?
No, I wanted something already created that in videos and so that I just share in the site.
Why don't you chat with me and I can see if we can build something for you.
Okay.
tell me what you want and we can build something. But yeah, this is what I build all my own social media. So I usually just use Canva as a tool. And then everything that I do, like for instance, if you look at my Facebook page, you know, whenever I go with a client to give them keys or, you know, whatever, I just, I kind of, where's my photos? So like, if you look at my photos, all my photos, like anytime I'm with a client, you know, close the house, I take a picture with them, you know, sold. And that's just, you know, even if you're at an open house, you know, taking a video here at the open house, they don't know if it's your listing or not. That's all, you know, even like today, if you take a picture of this screen training, say, hey, I'm at a real estate training, learning how to serve my clients professionally. You know, anything that's real estate related, even finding like news articles where you can post to keep people updated. You just kind of have to be creative with what you do. But just reminding that people in your group and your social media that you're out there and doing real estate. And that reminds them, you know, they forget. People don't remember what you're doing unless you remind them. So there's so many different things that you can post to be creative. But I'll work with building you something.
There is in the MLS any reports that I can share by social media?
Yeah, the MLS has reports. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So yeah, join our Skyline Brokers group. Let's go back. Let me show you the different groups sorry, we've gone a few minutes over. So Skyline Brokers group, Washington State Real Estate group is great. And then you can like our Skyline Properties page. So we have a Skyline Brokers group and our Skyline Properties page. So go like our page and then you'll get all the new news and stuff that's going on. So make sure you're liking that as well. But yeah, those are our major, we have an Instagram, Twitter, all of that. So if you want to follow us on all those different pages to find out what's going on, that would be a great place to go. Do we have any questions? All right. Well, sorry we went a little bit over. Thanks for bearing with my coughing and my congested voice, but it was nice seeing some of the new faces and some of the old faces. And like I said, Skyline Properties, we all work as a team. So just because you're in a different office doesn't mean you can't reach out to me as a branch manager. We're 7 individual managers and we all work together. And that's one of the things that are great about Skyline. And another thing I want to remind you guys is if there's anyone that you think that can benefit from Skyline Properties, that's a licensed real estate broker, please refer them to me and I will make sure to get them hired. And when I do get them hired, you can get anywhere from $400 to $1,000 for a bonus. So keep that in mind when you're talking to other real estate brokers. It's a great way to get some supplemental income. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. Have a great day and wish you the best.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.